LLG.
DJ.
I'm sorry. clap.
We got our own Clika. Strong Clika. 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 That's all we got is Clika. Clika. Can you respect?
Welcome to the Clika Podcast, episode 68.
Who we got here?
Yo, what's up? It's the Prophet. Brown Brovaz in the house.
This is our son. Brown Brovaz are in the house today.
What's going on? This is Bahgo 74.
This is LLG now, not Rick.
The podcaster formerly known as Rick. That's gonna be his name.
I like that name. Hey, I like it, dude. The way they fucking put it, like, hey, what's up, LLG? I'm like, hey, I like that, dude.
Hey, look, that's his symbol.
Low life gangster.
Artist formerly known as Rick.
I know, right?
Oh, by the way, I'm Chris. I'm here too.
Hi, Chris. Yeah. Everybody gets quiet after that.
Hi, guys.
So, man, thank you for coming over. I know you guys had a long drive.
Yeah.
I know you guys came all the way from where?
The Valley.
Yeah. I live in Silmar, and Prophet is in NoHo. So, you know, just kind of came along the way.
A drive.
Yeah,
I did the driving.
Yeah, I figured, hey, you're the furthest north. You're going to have to come down south anyway.
Oh, man. At least he thought it out, dude. That's cool, man.
I already had thought, I'm like, when we get this phone call, this is 100%.
You planned it out like fucking Greyhound, dude. You know where you're going to go.
Fucking Metro and shit.
But yeah, man, we're happy to be here, man. This has been a long time coming. Been speaking about Gualandia for a while now about this, and we just had to get our shit together. So, yeah. We finally did, and here we are, man. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, man.
Who's Bagualandia?
Hey, me and Bahgo, we kind of go back a few years, and like, I'm a real silly type of dude. I always give my homies like pet names and shit. And I called them Bagualandia. Apparently, I wasn't the first person to call them Bagualandia, but yeah, that's Bagualandia. The podcaster formerly known as Bahgo.
No, that should call me off guard because my best friend Edgar called me Bagualandia years ago, man. I'm talking about probably 15, 20 years ago. And all of a sudden, this cat, when I met him, he's like, what's up, Bagualandia? I'm like, what the fuck?
It was like the full circle type shit.
Like, whoa, did you know my homeboy? What's going on here, bro? What's going on?
God damn.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, I was trying to... the first question I always wanted to ask you guys, how did you guys come to your name?
The name actually came from a song on my first album that I did. It was... I made an album called, me and my homie Frank John James, we came up with an idea of making an album with only one person that we're sampling, and we called it Architects, Volume 1, Bob James. It was all Bob James samples. Mm-hmm. And one song on there was called Brown Brovaz, and it was me, our son, and another homie of mine named Surrealist. And it was a really cool song. You know, Arson did a really dope-ass Spanish flow on there. And I had like this cool sample that I took of like Fidel Castro, and like I put it in the beginning talking about like the whole revolution and what it takes to be a revolucionario and all that kind of shit. And it was really dope. And then that was what, 2012?
Well, yeah, and then what kind of happened was a couple of years ago we started like really making a push to work on music again, because I had gone a lot of years without working on music. And what happened was it kind of turned into like the working title for the project, right? It was like, yo, what's up with the Brown Brovaz? What's up with the Brown Brovaz? And then by the time it was all done, like that's just who we kind of became. So it was like very much organic in that sense. Yeah. But it started.
And there was that lyric too, where I kicked the lyric on one of our songs that we were doing once we got back together, and it was Brown Brovaz back up in the lab already planning, and that statement kind of encompassed the entire feel of what the album would eventually become. And then that's when we started calling Brown Brovaz, like, yeah, let's do that. And
so you guys actually had a reason to name them that.
Yeah.
Name yourselves that. That's fucking dope.
Yeah, and because the initial song Brown Brovaz was like a song about like being Latino and revolution and being, you know, proud of that and shit like that, you know, like no matter what country you come from, it's kind of like all like one raza, I guess you could say. And like I really felt that a lot. And everyone always asks, why Brown Brovaz? He reminds me of Coco Brovaz, like from Western. It's just like, you know, it's just some creative way. Or we thought creative. It could be corny to some, but
you kept the hip hop.
Yeah.
You know, you kept the hip hop, not just Brown Brothers. You actually Brown Brovaz.
I mean, it's kind of funny though, obviously, when like you know, you're having a conversation with other people, and you know, maybe they're not familiar with the Coco Brovaz, or and they mispronounce Brown Brovaz, you know. But they eventually learn, man.
You could take
the Oneaters.
You could take it French. Brown Brovaz.
Yeah. That's what I initially thought it was. Brown Brovaz.
Brovaz.
I was thinking Brovaz, Brovaz. Like,
Was
what-
I the only one that got it? Like Brovas.
Yeah, like babosos. Hey, this shit was dope though, man. Like, I like what's interesting is like me and our son have like a storied history of making music together in many different iterations. You know, like different groups and crews, and we kind of were getting together with the whole crew essentially initially making songs. And Bahgo shot us a few beats. Some songs never really left the cutting room floor.
Bagolandia?
Yeah, Bagolandia on the beats. Bagolandia 74.
Damn.
But we started seeing that everyone else's like passion was kind of like dwindling, and mine and his was so like still on fire. So we kind of had to keep moving. You know what I mean?
So how long you guys been collaborating?
It's got to be like 15 years. Or
Oh,
something like
shit.
that. Like 10 or 15 years. Yeah, like were you rapping when you were rapping already when we first met. So we were in a fraternity in college. He went to Northridge, I went to UCLA, and I think we were both probably like rapping amongst our little like crews and stuff. And then I would hear, yo, there's this dude Cheddar at they called him Cheddar at CSUN, man, you gotta rap with him. And then eventually I remember I think meeting you at like a I think it was when we were pledging maybe, and then again at a party like a long time later. And by then you were already like really in your element musically, and I was still kind of fucking around a little bit. So like, you know, I wanted to keep up with him. But then over the years, we've done a project called the Consortium, where it was the two of us with 3 other MCs, and you know, just some really dope production all around. And then that was what we were actually trying to do a volume 2 of the Consortium basically.
Oh, okay.
So we started getting together. We worked on like 3 or 4 songs, and then a couple of those kind of became the framework for Brown Brovaz. And then that was where every time we scheduled the session, it was me and Prophet showing up, you know. So we were like, yo, let's just run with it, and that's what we did.
I want to know how you got the name Cheddar, dude.
So
Do
stupid.
you have like
dog.
jaundice or something?
Nah, it had to do with it's so stupid, dog. Like I was
He had athlete's foot. It's
for real tough acting, acting.
like, man, you gotta clear up that fucking cheddar on your feet, man. What's up with that shit, dude?
For real, like ball sack cheddar. But nah, like it was stupid, dog. Like I was in the frat, and these guys were all sticklers about making everyone have a nickname. And it was around the time of 8 Mile. Hoping you know where I'm going with this. And I was the only rapper there, and they called me Cheddar Bob. And over all the years and shit.
That's the worst fucking
I know,
nickname
dog.
to
It's so
have,
fucking
dude.
dumb, dog. So over all the years, it's kind of dropped to Cheddar, and then that's where it's at right now. But that shit is so corny, dog. Every
Yo,
time I tell the
you had like 2 hours on the drive to tell me not to say nothing about Cheddar, bro. I burned him right away.
We're gonna edit that one out. Nah. But yeah, so they call me Cheddar. But you know, what's interesting about the story, I want to add a little caveat, is he was actually in a group in college called Team Classic, and they were making a lot of fucking noise. They were doing a lot of shows, opening up for a lot of like hip hop artists at the time. Knitting Factory was popping, all those areas. They were doing it. Me, I hadn't quite done that yet. I was just kind of still doing like garage recordings and the crib recordings, not really putting shit out like on a big level. So that was a big inspiration. Yeah,
And
4-track.
more or less,
like,
what year was this?
4-track Tascam. We're talking about probably 05, 06, 07.
Fucking shout out Tascam.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
I got so many shit started, dude.
Oh yeah, Tascam little 4-track digital recorder.
414?
Yeah, it was
MK 414.
Yeah, that shit was sick as fuck. And so much shit was done with that. But you know, I was also doing some other stuff with a band that I had with my family. So it was just different kinds of musical expression. But when I connected with him was through the homie Mad Blunts. We went through UCLA, and he was like, we had a freestyle session with these dudes, and I finally met fucking Team Classic. It's him and the homie Rick Spotlight, and that was fucking dope. And from there, we kind of collaborated a little bit. We came up with a song called "Catch Me at the Showcase." We used to do little showcases. We had a homie who was a promoter, still is, and we did a couple of showcases. But he was a college promoter, and as you guys know, like what kind of college heads that are going to a party want to be listening to some boom bap hip hop shit. It's kind of like they kill the party, and I always hate that shit. It's about knowing your demographic and understanding that comes years later, but initially you just want to rock a show, but you're like, what the fuck? But yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, it's kind of how I met the Team Classic and our son and shit.
So everybody's just like looking at you with a blank stare.
Yeah, like or like the fucking dance floor just empties, you know what I'm saying? But me and Arson, like one thing that I like to say is we're typically the ones that create the foundation for the songs, and then everyone else comes on. So because we had always were the ones creating and bringing the ideas to the table, it made it so much easier for us just to be like, all right, let's keep doing it, dog. You know what I mean?
The Godfathers of
everyone
it,
else. I don't want to say that because
were you like the catalyst?
We did a lot of, we were the catalyst for a lot of the songs. You know what I mean? Like we would bring like the first verses, or because like Bahgo, like when we were doing State of the Union stuff, like like a lot of times me and Mace were that, we would bring a lot of the ideas to the table that would become the songs later on, whether it be the hook, whether it be like a cool verse, or even just a brainstormed idea. So me and Arson were that in our respective crews.
And the interesting thing is that we kind of take a little bit of like that leadership aspect of it, but we're very much on opposite extremities on a lot of different things that we do.
You guys think different, like as far as song structure, song concepts.
You don't know structure.
Opposites attract.
I'm like structure. He's like he could lock out a song right away, right there in the moment, one take it, kill it, and even if I did the same thing, I would want to go back and like mess with it because I always want to fine tune it and mess with it. So that's like
fundamentally. Are you like the fucking like La Bamba?
Okay. Cheddar's turning red. It's always about Cheddar's turning red.
It's always about Richie.
It's always about Richie. No, not my Richie.
Me and Arson, we work so well together because we are in the respects opposites, I think one thing that really made this album so dope is because we had to compromise so much. And now that we're adults, we're able to do that with a little bit less ego. I think when you're like in your 20s and shit, it's hard to put that ego aside. I'm 35, my boys.
I think even going through that, because like he said, he's been involved with several projects. I was involved with Team Classic, and one way or another, we've been through several musical breakups, which always is kind of what ends up happening, right? You're in this group and everybody has ideas and everybody has invested some of themselves into it. So one way or another, when you give somebody feedback, some people can take it and some can't. And even when we give each other feedback, it can get heated sometimes, it can get spirited, but I think with time we become, more mature. And I think like that kind of really came together on the album, because I think if you listen to the album as a whole, you can see the elements of where he might be a little bit more like free spirited. I'll call it, like on a song, like he doesn't really get constrained by a song structure. He'll create his own structure, and then I'm kind of trying to bring. Oh yeah, where's your 16 at? What do you mean you got 18? Like how are we gonna fix that? But we
all unorthodox. What the fuck, man? I thought. What do you mean 24?
I like to push the boundaries. A lot of times we get caught up with a structure that who created, you know what I'm saying? Like, and not to mention like us kind of being elder statesmen in the game, like, or just being listeners that are a little bit older. Like, we're coming from an era where like the three verses in a song was standard. Now the attention span is so small that the verses have become very short and very condensed.
That's
you know
a
what
trip,
I mean?
Man. That's interesting you bring that up.
Yeah, back in the day, we had to listen to three verses to a song, and we loved it because it was a cool narrative. Now the attention spans are so short with the people that no one is making 3 fucking verses. Very rare. I'm not saying no one, but extremely rare. If you look at all the music now that is currently on rotation, they're very short songs, and the verses are very short. You know, they may have like a long vamp or a long bridge, but like the verses.
Shout out to the Gucci Gang.
You know, so, yeah, exactly. So like, I like to push the boundaries in that respects, and I'm a very I like to roll a lot off emotion and feeling and vibe, you know, and inspiration. And I've said this numerous times before. I have this very like deep thought that music has a story already written, and you're just helping it kind of achieve what its destiny already is. You know what I'm saying? And with the way that it speaks with you, that's how sometimes when a beat comes on or music comes on and things are just flowing so fast, that's that spirit and that vibe flowing. When you really got to dig for it, it may not necessarily be that
you are
story.
Absolutely right. One thing I do remember about you is that I remember you just showing up to the studio and you're showing you a beat, and you were so eager to just start writing on the spot. Like, it wasn't like, hey man, no, it's not that. No, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to write right now.
Yeah, the vibes already got me. It's telling me like,
Yeah, I remember there's one song, The Rain. I showed up, and no joke, the minute I played it, this already had like the song already done. Yeah. In his head, it was done. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? He's like, yeah, I'm about to write some shit right now. So I was like, oh shit. So that's the kind of energy that me and this who had all the time.
It's not always dope either. I'm not going to be egomaniac. It's not always dope.
No.
It's more of a stream of consciousness flow of thing that is coming.
Exactly.
And
it's your feeling toward it, man.
Yeah, and like I'm very like I like to freestyle a lot. That's one of my things that I do a lot, and because of that is the way that I've kind of began to even write my songs. Is I kind of freestyle them out, so I got to tailor them later. And one thing that me and Arson kind of butted heads a little bit with, it's just a different approach on making music. Neither one is correct or not. They're both
There's no rules to the game.
No, there isn't.
Exactly. And it was just a matter of like approach. Like my man, he likes to have things like as perfect as possible, you know, and very technically like put together. Me, as I've been stating, I flow more off the emotion and vibe. So for me, what I would feel sometimes is when me and him were creating a song, and the vibe that we created when it was recorded, whether it was technically perfect or not, the vibe and the feeling that it evoked in my perspective trumped anything that would come from a re-spit. And sometimes my man would let it roll, but sometimes he couldn't, and that was where the compromise happened. You know what I'm saying?
Was it like a lot of tension involved, and actually that tension probably created beauty.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure you guys probably clashed sometimes, but it was like,
I grew from that shit. Yeah, I grew from that shit, and then sometimes I'd be like, yeah, you was right, dog, and sometimes he'd be like, yeah, dog, you was right on that one, and that takes.
Yeah, I think like one of the things that this process like did for me. So before I even like got to the stage of like being like, oh, you know, let's compromise on this or that. Like this, the undertaking of recording this and working on it brought me a lot of balance that was missing from my life. I've been like just super focused on like my professional aspirations and kind of growing in that space. And I've always loved music, and no matter what, I consume it one way or the other. But I hadn't been expressing myself, and I noticed that it was taking a toll on like my happiness, my ability to perform, you know, in my job or with relationships or with my wife or with my family. And I think like being able to prioritize it and take the time. And honestly, at first it was just a matter of like, yo, can we meet up maybe every couple weeks and work on a song here or there and see what comes of it? There were times where this guy would have like songs done and I'm struggling to write my fourth bar, you know, and he's done. I'm like, bro.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, but I think over time though, like I got more and more comfortable with it to the point that it became, you know, part of my daily routine. And now even like over the last few weeks, like I can't stop, you know? Yeah. So I think like that's been really cool, because I think as you, you know, we might be very different, and in that process, there might've been times where we butted heads a little bit, but I think in general, one way or the other, like this process made me a much more happier person, a person who's really like that much more excited to continue working on shit, you know?
Yeah. I think a lot of this happens throughout every group I've known.
Right.
Every genre. It doesn't have to be hip hop. It could be rock. It could be jazz. Right. There's always tension in the music, man. That's something you have to overcome, being part of a group. And I believe like every time I hear like music, like your kind of music, I could see that. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a group that Chris doesn't like called Fleetwood Mac.
Fuck Fleetwood Mac.
Hey man, they got some joints, dog.
Hashtag fuck Fleetwood Mac, dude. I'm gonna break that viral.
I mean, think about rumors. There's so much tension in the whole history behind the whole album. There was so many things happening.
Yeah, behind the scenes.
Yeah, like breakups, everybody. Yeah. But look at what came out of it. Yeah. A genius album, which of course Chris doesn't like. But anyways, fuck him.
It's fucking boring shit.
Hey man,
but I think that's the beauty of music though. Like it brings everything out of you.
I'd like to say one thing too to add to that. I think when everyone is able to look at the final picture and what is really important, being the product of music, not everyone's individual ego, but what is going to be best for this project, then that's when things come out magical. Yeah. Because if you're able to put things inside and say, okay, my idea may not work in the scheme of this entire project, and I'm okay with that because I want this to be dope. And me
it's
and him,
all for the greater good.
Yeah. And me and Arson initially we were like, yo, let's do something that we don't typically do, but I've been really trying to do more of, which is curate an album. So create a list of songs, and from there you pick and choose and curate the sound that you want, instead of just putting everything out that you make. Together, yeah. You know what I'm saying?
That's how you guys came up with this album, like the Brown Brovaz. Like, how did this come about? Like, what set you guys say, you know, I'm gonna make an album. Let's make an album.
I think just like Arson had briefly touched on, we were making songs with the whole crew, the consortium, and you know we had some beats from you, and then ultimately they kind of fell off because their dedication or their time or their life at that particular moment wasn't capable of appropriating extra time to make music, but mine and his was. So we just kept rolling, and we made the Train of Thought. And after, I think,
at first, like after, because Train of Thought was one of the first ones that we started on a couple years ago.
We did solo though, because the other ones were just four.
Right. So we did you know, Train of Thought. We had done a couple other songs. The only other ones that I think made it right, and Time Flies, I think. Mm-hmm. But after we had a couple joints and we were like, yo, this is coming out really good. Like we were thinking like, is it an EP? And then we just kept making more music. And then there was this one particular Sunday where I remember we were probably like halfway into the project, maybe like 5 or 6 for sure's, and then like 5 or 6 that we were thinking through, and we knocked out like 7 songs in a day.
Damn.
Yeah,
It was like an 8-9 hour session.
Holy
yeah,
shit.
yeah, and it just came naturally.
Did you guys already have it written down? Or
some
you
of
guys-
it? Some of it was stuff that we picked up, and then some of it was brand new on the spot. So we did it all then, and it was like essentially the other half, and then we worked on a few more songs, and a couple of them probably got cut. But then at this point, we're like, damn, like now it's just a matter of us having that discussion around: do we do it now? Do we drop it later? Where exactly are we trying to get to? What's too much? What's too little? Yeah. And then as he shared, like we really got into the spot as we were doing that of like curating it and going after a specific sound. And then once we kind of achieved that, then it was also like, what kind of ride do we want to take everybody on? And we had a back and forth and different ideas around like, do we go from our lows to our highs, or do we kind of start, slower and then kind of take the rising action and then kind of peak out and falling action, which is kind of where we landed on. But I think that was really what it wasn't like we said like, hey, a year from today we're gonna drop Brown Brovaz. It was like, no, let's just start working on music and see what kind of evolves
let it happen.
into.
Yeah.
Just let it happen.
Without a doubt, the curation of an album can make or break that shit. Like without a doubt, you can get the most perfect fucking album, but if the songs are not in order, then that shit is gonna flop.
Actually, there's an art form behind that.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
There's an art form behind
Motherfuckers
actually
spend,
curating the songs.
The way they flow, and
Right.
and you don't have to get technical like a DJ does and break down BPMs and nothing like that. It's more of a feeling and a vibe, and also what the songs are saying. Like if your album is thematically based and it's kind of having a narrative, then you want to make sure that it flows within that narrative, that it's not out of like order or whatnot.
And your album did do that.
Yeah,
That's
we tried
exactly
to.
how Pink Floyd and Radiohead does their music. They do it with a
greats.
beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
Like they do it in 3 parts.
Yeah. It's almost like a play, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're talking about plays, they have like the beginning, then they have the climax, and then the final act.
Yeah.
It's all broken into 3s, like
Yeah.
Shakespearean shit. So yeah, that's fucking dope.
And that's that's the way everybody should do their album. I think. Just have a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah. I mean,
It just flows better that way.
unless you're just doing some boom bap rapping about how dope you are, then in that case it could just be that.
It could be an EP.
Yeah, just that kind of shit. But
It's
yeah.
like I thought I was dope. I think I'm dope, and I know I'm dope. That's a 3
This album was tough though, man, because like, financially speaking, I had to make a lot of sacrifices, you know what I mean? And like, as everyone does, but this one was really tough, and I'm very adamant about paying my way and making sure that everything is done half and half. So our son was very, very awesome and diligent about giving me that time that I needed, because he could have paid for the whole shit if he wanted to, but I didn't want that. You know what I mean? I wanted to be like, nah, wait a couple weeks, dog, and then we'll do this shit. You know what I mean? Or like, yeah, wait another couple weeks for that one too. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, this shit is no joke. But it just shows the passion that you have for something when you're willing to actually put your money where your mouth is.
It's like I got to get those hi-hat loops on layaway, man.
For real.
Give me a second on those hi-hat loops, dude.
It was like, fuck, man. We did a music video and it was just like mad cash for indie. But it shit came out dope, and it's for the love, and I have absolutely no regrets, man. I'm glad you like the album. Did you get a chance to hear it, Chris?
I haven't got a chance to hear it yet.
I knew it. I was looking at you and I'm like, this guy didn't even hear this shit, huh? It reminds me of this interview that I just saw with this Senator Klobuchar, where they're asking him this question about the Mexican president, and she has no idea. She's like, do you even know what his name is? She's like, nah, I know that he's the president of Mexico. Hey, question for your old school hip hop heads: Kool Moe Dee or Big Daddy?
Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
Kool Moe Dee was the originator of the fast style, though. He kind of really broke grounds. Like if you're talking about history,
Yeah. I mean,
Big Daddy kind of took that and went, but he kind of was the first one to break it from that hip hop and and all that kind of shit.
Well, he's the one that kind of changed rap in a way, man.
I
Big
think
Daddy
Big
came. He's the one
Daddy's-
he
His
started like going
concepts were
crazy.
dope
Yeah.
as fuck
Like,
too.
I think-
I remember that shit.
I think that there was a symbolic death in hip hop when he killed Busy B on the mic. When Kool Moe Dee, when he beat him in that battle, that was the end of that era and that style of rapping, and then the beginning of like some real lyrical,
More
technical
lyrical
shit. You know what I'm saying?
Next level shit.
So it's like his impact may not have been that big as far as like later on, but I feel that initial step, man, it made hip hop.
And just Kool Moe Dee had that
Wild
voice.
Wild West.
He had that voice where it's like it's truthful. There's a truth to his fucking voice. Anything he said, you're gonna take it for its word, dude.
Yeah.
That's all I liked about him. But
Yeah. He could never break through.
Yeah.
Like Big Daddy. Big Daddy had the ladies, that's why.
Yeah,
right.
He was one
That
of
always
the
counts
first.
for something, right? For some
Smooth,
fucking
brother.
Had the
reason.
ladies. He fucking posed for Playgirl and shit. You know what I'm saying?
I forgot about that one. There.
Oh shit.
Fucking Big Daddy Kane, man. He's the shit.
And I didn't get to see him, man. I was like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna go watch him too. Never got him. Damn, Parker, that's LA for you right there.
Yeah.
That's LA,
Fuck
man.
parking, dude.
That's
why I took the bus to this bitch. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying.
There's no parking outside, fool. How about in LA? Ain't gonna be shit.
Yeah.
No,
So
It's all
yeah,
quiet.
we're back.
we were all taking drinks of our
Montejo, yeah. Oh
Hey,
damn, I need another one.
Have any of you guys read that Rakim book that just dropped?
No, but
So fucking dope, man. I highly recommend it. It's cool. It's not like all strictly like autobiography. It's kind of like a blend of that with like a manual about how he kind of did some of the famous songs. But it's cool because he talks about like a little bit of like that unspoken like tension that he had with Big Daddy Kane back in the day and shit like that, and how they would throw like little small jabs at each other like underneath
innuendos and
yeah,
shit.
like hardcore innuendos and shit like that. You know,
Shit.
I do have a book called Rakim Told Me So,
yeah.
and it's about it's pretty much liner notes. They break down every album. They go through different albums, you know, a bunch of classic albums, and they break down what it was, how they started it, and the name Rakim Told Me So. I don't know how that came about, but it's probably one of those old school things, you know. But it's dope because they go through like Ultramagnetic MCs, they go through Too Shorts, they go through a bunch of them. It's kind of like liner notes. You know when you read liner notes?
Hell yeah.
It's like 4 or 5 pages.
We don't have that no more, but back in the day, there were things we used to read and that
this
had
book
stats.
in this book, because they break down everything. Like they talk about the studio sessions, they talk about how they came up with the album, and like little innuendos here and there about shit that they did. Is badass. So if anybody, I recommend that book.
or the series is called Told like
No,
So-and-So
it's a
Told You
book.
So.
It's a book called Rakim Told Me So.
Oh, okay, got it.
One day I don't know where I bought it honestly, and I was like, fuck it. I seen Rakim on the title, like I'm gonna buy it.
Yo, do you know who had? Do you know who used to have the best liner notes in hip hop? In my opinion, The Roots. They used to be written by Quest, and if you notice closely and you look at their albums, the way they number them is a continuation from the last album. So the first album is like 1 through 15. The second album is 16 through 20
that's
something.
right.
Oh,
The third
shit.
album is it's a continuation all the way. So like it's fucking very cool. And then the liner notes.
I like that kind of shit.
Yeah, me
That
too.
shit's dope.
Like when they add little small things like that.
Are you guys fucking with that kind of shit? Like for your project, for your crew shit?
Not really, because liner notes is something that it's more of a printable thing out now. You have to physically have something printed in order for it to actually make sense digitally.
And you're just going digital right now.
Yeah, everything's digital.
I hear you.
Well,
Well,
you could actually put it on your Spotify account. Like you
Yeah.
could
Might
actually
be
put
able
the
to.
whole
You can put additional
history,
pictures.
because the whole liner notes it breaks down like how it started, what went about, what you did prior to the studio sessions, at the studio sessions,
thank yous and shit.
and like if you read liner notes, man, they go.
But
deep.
I think like it's like a Easter egg, right? So
Yeah.
like they're Easter eggs. Like I don't know if you guys are familiar with that Netflix show that did it. Luke Cage.
Yeah.
They like season 1 was all Gangstar titles.
Yeah, that was
Season
dope.
2
Oh, right.
was it
It's
Pete Rock,
themed.
Smooth?
It's all themed and
So
shit.
yeah,
That's
so
tight.
like I think like I would love to push to do some kind of Easter egg that only somebody who would recognize that would notice is kind of what it came down to, right? Because I bet you most people didn't even notice what you just shared.
Yeah.
Well, one thing
Yeah.
you did do is though every time I notice on IG is that you broke down every song.
That was something new that I wanted to do. I kind of wanted to give a little bit of a background about like how these fucking songs came to be, and give it from a perspective of like of truth, you know, like kind of revealing things that people typically wouldn't, you know.
That's something different.
It's
It was
looked
something
over.
different, man.
Usually it's
Like
looked over. huh?
including conflicts, and I wasn't as consistent as possible because like a bunch of things happened and shit. Especially like after Kobe, I was like, man, I want to post shit. You know what I'm saying? So I had to wait for a while just so I could feel right. And then I had one song left. I'm like, damn, I'm on the last fucking song too, man.
I don't know. Did you hear what he's talking about? Is that he actually went through the whole album, and every week, right? Was it every week?
every couple weeks?
Every couple
I
weeks,
saw that,
he broke down every song, dude, how it came about, what had happened, the trials, tribulations through it, that's pretty
Sick.
awesome, dude. I don't see that. I really don't
sick.
see that.
Yeah. You know what? That's actually pretty fucking cool because you get to see your process, what works for you and how it goes, you know. And I think your end result was like perfect. Because
Thank you, man.
I've actually waited to hear you guys' music. I mean, I heard it through the Instagram stuff you guys put up, but I'm waiting. I want to hear the whole thing on its entirety, and then after talking to you guys, I want to see your thought process and what kind of thought process you put into your music, which is fucking something that I normally don't like stuff off the bat,
Right.
but when I know the backstory and your little notes you guys are doing,
But I think one that I don't think you shared though that resonated with me a lot. I think it was your cousin right, who had sent him like a message on IG or something, and he shared something around how he listened to the album and he felt that it really inspired him to just like become a better person. And like that was ultimately all we wanted to
huge.
do.
Yeah, that's like
that's huge, man.
Yeah, because like
that's better than selling a whole bunch of fucking.
no, it
songs.
is. It's fulfillment, right? Because like we were saying earlier, we've been doing this for 15 years, and we've had different goals, right? And like now we're in our 30s, and we're both professionals too. And I think at the end of the day, like that was really all that you could ask for, is like if we're putting something out that somebody could digest and think like, yo, whatever that ride was that they just took me through, like made me feel better. Like, man, that was ultimate stamp. Like that was just like, no matter what else happens, like that message in itself,
it's
like made it
impactful.
worth it.
Not just that, but people relate to it more.
Yeah.
In that style, it's fucking dope.
It put things into perspective for me. Being a little bit older, you have a tendency to really like cherish this music shit more, because you know what it means to you, and you know the sacrifices you have to do to make it happen. I think in your youth you're a little bit more careless because you're young. You really don't know. You're just going for it. You know
probably haven't gone through as much.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like later on,
you're like,
you're juggling so much more shit.
It means more.
To put this time and this money and this effort and energy aside is a big thing.
Yeah.
And I think when I was younger, kind of getting props every now and then, my ego would kind of brush them aside. I hate to say that, but it's a true admission.
That's very true. Yeah.
Like you kind of thank you very much, but it would kind of be like a thank you very much, like. But now, especially hearing shit like that, it's like, wow, I begin to reflect upon all those times that who cares if you're fucking going quote unquote viral or selling a gang of records. This motherfucker liked your music.
Yeah.
This guy liked your stuff and came up to you and gave you props and respect for your craft.
Yeah, because I just started recently getting actually being in comments, and I'm like the comments before, what do you call it? Didn't, not that they didn't mean anything, but they were like really like generic, But then I had somebody actually sit down and write down the feeling they had when they saw my picture and what they're going through and how it helped them out somehow. Right. And I'm just like, fuck, that's fucking cool, dude. I can see that happening to you guys a lot, dude.
And I think one of the other things is we did make a concerted effort to like be vulnerable on songs and in different ways, right? Like Drift Away, the song that Bahgo produced, like it's a song about mental health essentially, right? And like my wife she's a psychotherapist, so she's out like either doing clinical work or like out in the streets. So a lot of the things that we're talking about like could be the things that some of her patients go through, and I think ultimately it's things that we all go through, but we don't always feel comfortable talking about it. So that was what was cool about a song like that. And then we had other elements of it, like on Up Above, Prophet's talking a lot about his feelings of grief and going through the loss of someone, and I did something similar on another song. So at the end of the day, it was all about like whether it's your financial struggles, we talked about that too, whether it's your mental health, your emotional maturity, your ability to handle relationships, like we felt like that was a spot, like a little bit of a void that there is in music, because people do address those topics, but it's usually like, focusing on something else and the conversation goes that way. Like we wanted to be like super proactive about it. And I think that's also why, like maybe I feel like it brought me sanity, why I felt like it brought me balance, because we were able to just express that.
Yeah. The thing that sucks is not the younger crowds, right? But they don't fucking know that. They don't see that shit happening. They just hear a hip hop beat, and they don't look into the actual lyrics, into the content, what you guys are fucking saying. Yeah.
The concept.
Yeah, they don't see that, dude. And it's like a lot of stuff could help them through.
Right.
They hear your struggle going through your voice, through your music. And some of these guys just, like, I was like that growing up. I didn't give a fuck. It sounded cool. I just don't listen to it. But I never listened to the actual content of the music, dude.
Yeah. But you know what? I've noticed this. So, like, I lived in Chicago for a few years. And when I was living in Chicago, I was running a nonprofit on the north side of the city. And I actually started an open mic event out there every Friday night for the kids in the neighborhood. And they were really shy at first. And actually, the first time we did it, like I was the executive director of the place, and I performed just to like show them that, hey, like just go ahead and it's fine. It's going to be okay. Yeah. So these kids at the time, they were like 12, 13 years old. Fast forward, probably about 6-7 years now, they're like 19, 20, and they're out in Chicago. They're all doing their own music thing. They're putting out their own music. And one of the things that I've noticed is that as they're doing that, like when I do reach back out to talk to them about like, hey, why don't you maybe touch light on this? Like, why don't you talk about your upbringing and what your neighborhood was like? They're like, oh yeah, I should do that, because I don't think they're getting that kind of content.
That's true.
To your point, right? Like, I don't think that they wouldn't respond to it in such a way. I just don't think that they're getting fed that.
Yeah.
So I think like that's what we also need to figure out how to do, is like, how do you give them that message and kind of meet them where they are a little bit?
Yeah, it's like the music that's out there right now, and all you see is the fancy, expensive stuff.
Yeah.
and that lures them in, but they don't see what's underlying, what it took to get to that point, you know?
Right.
They don't see that message, which I love that you guys are doing that, dude. I fucking love that, man.
What I find intriguing is the message is universal. However, the sound that's underneath it is what changes, right? You know what I'm saying? So, like, if the sound that you have underneath this message is not the sound of the youth, then you're not going to get them.
Yeah, exactly.
Period. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And like I've already gone through this so many times, and I'm at the stage in my life where I don't give a fuck. I'm making the music that I like and hitting the demographic that I guess I'm hitting, but I'm not going to go and seek anymore. Like the in shit, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like me being an MC, you know, we're always like braggadocio and shit like that, and you have to be able to adapt and always be able to spit over any beat and that kind of shit, which is cool. You know, I could spit over some of the new shit too, or whatever, if need be, because it's all about metronomes and just recounting beats. But do I like that shit? Not really, you know. So I just realized, just do me, you know what I mean, and be content with that, and not have to worry about anything else.
Yeah,
and like that to me has been like the biggest blessing and the biggest thing that I've gathered from this whole experience making this album with our son, because we took a long break, we came back, we put our heart and soul into it, we put a lot of time, and in the end, that's the gift right there.
Right.
That's like the process, you know.
Dude, and that's the voice
journey.
of a college educated guy, dude. he like put it in perspective.
Yeah.
I'm like all over the fucking place, and they tuned it in, dude. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. These guys took that shit and they fucking deciphered it. That's fucking
Hey, yo,
awesome,
so you've
dude.
known each other for 15 years? Is that what it is?
Something like
Just
that.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
It's got to be about 15
This
years
new
now.
project, when did you start coming back together and working on
I think we started on it about 2 years ago, but I think we
Okay.
said like, yo, this is a project now. We're gonna finish it probably like less than a year ago.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay.
That's when we kicked it into
But
overdrive.
like last
Right.
March,
Before
April
we
or
were
something.
kind of just like mulling around, a couple of ideas, a couple of joints here and there, and then before you know it, it's kind of like, okay,
It was full force. Let's
yeah.
go.
Before you know it, you're beginning to like create a blueprint for what a sound could be like. You know what I'm saying? And then that's where the curation comes in. Where we're talking about, you begin to say, okay, this is 3 or 4 songs is like the foundation of what this song album is beginning to sound like. So let's roll with that sound.
I
And then
feel that.
then from
Yeah.
there, it makes it easier to cut songs without any sort of like attachment to them. Because then now you're not worried about, oh, I kicked the dope ass verse on that song, but I really want it here. It's
it
like,
don't
nah,
fit, it
but it
don't
ain't gonna
fit.
fit.
Yup.
Like this is the
I hear
baby that
that.
we're
Yeah.
creating.
Yeah.
This is that's important, not this.
And
you
a
know?
lot of the tracks that were cut one way or the other, like, are songs that we probably will go back to. Like, I would say we're probably 7 songs for sure into Brown Brovaz too, because we definitely want to do that as well. But I think like one of the things we were talking about earlier is in the beginning of this process, like myself having been removed from music for so long, I was getting a little bit of an attachment to each song. So one of the things I give Prophet a lot of props on is he was like, yo, nope, it's not gonna make it. And I wanted to like, nah, it just hurts my heart if you pull it off. And it hurt my heart to like leave like probably like 10 songs on the cutting room floor. But and then like, yeah, we have our feelings. Like we still have a couple where I'm like, bro, like when are we gonna put that one out? But regardless, like at the end of the day, it really helped, because there's like, there was a couple, they hurt to like cut them, but I'm so happy with the things that came out.
For real, dude.
But then it goes
GoPro status
Then it
and
goes
shit.
back to what I'm saying. It's like if your contribution on the Pacific song is really dope, but the song itself doesn't fit within the context of this, then you have to be able to cut that.
Amen.
And be like, all right, cool.
I went through that with you.
A lot. Like, but Bahgo used to bring a lot of shit to the table. We actually have an EP floating in the sky somewhere with like about 4 joints. But Bagolandia would like toss me some joints. You know,
Oh yeah, dude. I used to bring them like the whole group, like 10 songs, like, and probably one was selected, and not sometimes.
But I used to
none.
low key select like 2 or 3 in the back.
Yeah, like, but it was a frustrating moment as a producer, because you know you make that music for that group, you know, and like you put your heart and soul into it,
Right.
and you have a vision of what you want that sound to sound like, you know, like, and you have it, and when it doesn't make it it doesn't make the cut, it's like, fuck.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, but I want
But you
it
know
out
what?
there.
There's a way to look at that. My dad told me once, you have to write 100 songs before you start writing dope songs. That's what he told me.
It's
And
deep.
I looked at that
That's
like,
deep.
why is there a number behind that?
deep.
But it meant something to me. I was like, oh shit. He's basically saying you got to bust your ass.
You got to get your reps up.
It's
and
like-
get all the rust out.
It's like
Feel me?
the 10,000 hours, you
So-
know, Malcolm Gladwell, you know, the Outliers,
Right.
put in 10,000 hours of work to be a professional, you know,
Yeah,
a
and
master
so-
of your craft.
So those songs that didn't make it, you're supposed to thank those songs. You're supposed to be like, thanks, man, because that song is pushing you to the better song. You feel me? But it hurts. I know it hurts,
It hurt, dude.
because I have a CD right now that's full of those songs, and I'm like, man, that motherfucker never made it. That didn't make it. What the hell's wrong with us?
It led invite
he's right,
Bagolandia to fucking the podcast.
Exactly.
Hey,
Bahgo does his thing still. though.
Bagolandia kept on asking me, "Hey, what's up with that song though? Are you gonna drop on the Brown Brovaz? What's up with that song?" I'm like, "Dude, what the fuck are you talking about?" And next thing you know, it was a consortium song that we had cut on the cutting room floor that he really wanted to be on the album, and I had to explain to him like, "Nah, dog, like." It just doesn't fit within the context of the sound that we're creating.
Yeah, and it makes sense.
you
It
need
makes
all-
sense. After you
like-
explained it to me,
I was
it
like,
makes
it's
sense.
like getting like a yellow fucking brushing like over all of your shit when I was creating this beautiful landscape. You know? Like it's a beautiful song.
It's a neon yellow
within
too.
the neon,
it's
yeah.
fucking
It's like
rude in your face.
Yeah.
It's like you got to literal these beautiful puppies, but you're drowning them in the bathtub.
Why do you take it there, Dick? Why do you fucking take it there?
And you're going,
Yeah.
hey, Chris, and you're going, drink some water, boy, drink some water. And
Thanks, Dick. You just got rid of our fucking PETA crowd, Dick.
yeah, clap that out for
no,
real,
no, but
right?
Hashtag animal rights.
but it truly makes a lot of sense because I remember just thinking like, okay, I'm gonna make one then. Fuck it. If these aren't gonna get chosen, I'm gonna make one. And that's when The Rain came out.
Yeah, and the rain was banging.
Yeah.
But then it also goes back to what I said a little bit in the beginning. Each song, I believe, has a destiny.
Yeah.
So those songs have a destiny.
Yes.
It may not just be with us, one, or two, it may not be for this time.
Exactly.
How many times have you heard a beat a couple of years later and been like, damn, this shit is banging?
Yo.
Like, we got a few joints that we got on the album that are years old.
Well, I think even with like your production on the album, like we had Train of Thought, which you probably worked on, 3-4 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yes.
Because we started
Yes.
on it 2 years ago. And then, so that one was one of the early songs that kind of laid the foundation. And
Oh,
then we
shit.
did Drift Away,
Really?
which was, I think, the last song that
Yeah.
made it, like, on our last recording session.
Yeah.
So, like,
Oh,
it's a full
shit.
spectrum. So, to your point, like, every song has a different...
I fucking love that Drift Away, dog. As soon as you send me that fucking beat, dog, you know I sent you the hook like about 5 minutes later. Like, well, this fool sends me a beat. Like, Bagolandia, he'll always send me beats, which I love. He'll like send me like a beat he's working on or some random shit. And then he sent me this one, and I was like, oh. I started writing real fast. Like, it hit me like lightning bolt.
5 minutes.
Like
5 minutes.
In 5 minutes, I sent him like the hook, up in the sky where the birds fly and my dreams roam. It's the place I call home. Please leave me alone and let me lie amongst the clouds. Let my mind drift away until I figure it all out. Just kind of being stuck up in the clouds, like.
No, he rammed through my door, like, yo, what's up, bro? Hey, I got this. And it was like right away. Within like 5 minutes, we were like, all right, let's record this, right?
nice.
It was fucking ill, man.
Hell yeah.
It was ill. And then I hit up Bagolandia, and then that night I sent him because the way Arson works is like, I love Arson for this. He gets really excited and he'll mix that shit that night and send me a rough draft that night. So like at 1 and 2 in the morning,
Ethics,
I wake
ethics,
up and I'm
everyone.
like, oh shit.
Pay attention.
Well, one thing that he does do that I had to tell him not to is sometimes he'll put them songs out right away. I'm like, damn, dog, we just fucking made this shit. It's already on SoundCloud. What the fuck?
That shit's already mastered and
I'm
shit.
like, yo, they already forgot about us, bro.
He's like, send me the song. He's like, yeah, it's on DistroKid already. Fool. Like, what?
But yeah, freaking Bahgo, like he really loved the track and he gave me the story behind it that he was in an airplane making the beat.
Yeah.
You could tell the story, but
Well, yeah, I mean, I was seriously on I was coming back on an airplane from Tennessee, and I didn't want to watch a movie. Everybody does that shit, watch the movie on the fucking airplane. I'm like, no, fuck, I'm gonna make a beat.
Nice.
And I started making a beat on my phone because I have this IMPC app on my phone, and I started just making a beat on the spot. Like, fuck it, I'm gonna do this right now. Blah 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 blah. Hour later, I touched down in LA, and the next day I hit up Prophet. I go, hey yo, check this out. He's made this beat. And about 5 minutes later, he responded back with a hook. And I was like, oh, shit.
Damn, you're fucking playing this taxi and it's already went platinum.
Yeah. It tripped me the fuck out. So I'm like, yo, he's like, yo, we're about to have a recording session tonight. Yo, can I use it? We're about to use this beat. I'm like, are you serious? He's like, yeah. Fuck. So I'm like, okay, so wait up. Whoa. Hold on. Dude. I gotta arrange it. So I arranged it to 16 bars with the hook. And I went, okay, man, I'm gonna email it to you. So we did the whole SoundCloud thing, the whole thing, The next morning at 6 a.m, man, I wake up and he's like, yo, man, we finished it. Peep it out. I was like, what?
Damn, you guys are fast, dude.
it wrote itself, bro. Like he was literally in the clouds making the beat, and that's the idea that came to me without like
literally in the clouds.
Crazy.
Without any forethought. Like before that, it was just like spontaneous. So like it was something that was very spiritual in a sense, man. As far as the beat, like it just had a way. It told us something.
And where can we find this song?
It's on the
It's
album.
on the album.
Brown Brovaz album. Man.
What was the response from your fans and people that follow you?
It's interesting because our son had this amazing idea. I'm gonna let him talk about it right now. We had a listening party, and go ahead and let them know what you did for the listening party.
So what we did is, I think people's attention span is very limited, right? Like probably ourselves included. So we wanted to have like, how could we do it? How could we look at it differently? So recently, I had been out. I watched a movie with my wife over the summer last year, and it was a rooftop out in Hollywood. And what they do is they give everybody headphones. So instead of like just having a speaker assembly or whatever, everybody
like
puts
a
on
silent party.
Exactly, like a silent party.
Shit.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? That's the only way I'm gonna be able to put a bunch of people in my house, play them the album, and get them to listen from start to end. So we actually reached out to one of the silent party rentals, and we rented the headphones. So we invited either people who had contributed to the album or like our closest of friends, and it was a very intimate like event. It was maybe like 25, 30 of us, and we rented out the headphones, and we did it at my house, and we played them the album from start to finish, like a little 15-minute smoke break in between. And I mean, the response was awesome, man.
That's sick. That's
dope. It was just dope
that.
because we really like were able to capture the moment. And obviously those people, like, they had a lot of great feedback, constructive. Some of it was just like, yo, that shit is dope, thank you for finally dropping an album. And then from there, like, our intent again with this, I think, was really more so, I think, to fulfill ourselves a little bit. Like, I didn't come into this like hoping to make the album that was gonna go number one on Spotify or anything like that. So, and I think from that sense, like, the people that we introduced our project to, like, have been huge fans, like huge responses, like family in Chile, Puerto Rico, obviously, and then like you can follow the stats on Spotify and all the other platforms. Like, there's people in like Portugal and Russia and shit like that that listen to us. So that's been like really dope. And then I think ultimately, like, it's like, what do people who whose voice means something to us, like, what do they say about the album? And we've gotten some like really good responses in terms of that. So I think like I'm super happy with how everybody has kind of supported it so far. I think like now it's on us to continue to do that, because I do think that right now you have to be able to put in a lot of work consistently, because right now we're just in a different era, right, where there's so much more music and people will forget about you even if you drop like something good. So hopefully we can kind of just build on that momentum. But I was really happy with what we've heard so far.
Any plan?
What were you going to say about that?
I was going to say, any plans on doing any live shows in support of the album, or?
We had conversations about it, and we're definitely kind of looking into that. I had briefly spoke with Arson about it before we came inside here, and we said it's interesting how, like, typically you're used to doing a big promo push right when the album drops, but right now we're really spreading this out, and like, because we're not really tripping on it, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. We're kind of spreading it out. Like, we dropped the album many months ago, and we're just doing a podcast right now type of shit, right? You know what I mean? Because it's just the way that schedules work out and shit. So given that situation, we'd like to do a few shows, and we're kind of looking at type of stuff, but it's not something that's really like killing us at the moment. But we definitely want to try to do a couple of shows and sharpen up our blade a little bit and get back into the mix, Yeah,
I think like we did a lot of shows, years ago, like in the mid 2000s. I think I remember we opened up for like KRS and a lot of like people that just have definitely made their footprint in the game. And I was really proud of our live show. Like, we had, some real good things going. But then similar to just, like, even getting back to recording and creating, like, it was a long hiatus. So I think, like, when Prophet hit me up, like, back in, like, November, yo, let's do some shows in January. Like, honestly, I was a little like, okay, yeah, let's see what's up. But he probably didn't feel the energy as much. So I think, like, as you kind of build those reps up, right, like, definitely a space I want to get back into, because there's nothing like being on stage. There's nothing like being on stage and performing what you worked on, what you put your heart into. Like, that's where it really is all worth it, because at the end of the day, the feedback is great, and knowing that people are listening to it and valuing it is great. But there's that connection, right? When you're up on stage and you look down and people are like really listening, like, there's nothing like that. So definitely something we need to get on in the near future.
I feel like the same thing with riding a bus. I used to love riding the bus. I haven't ridden the bus in so fucking long. I'm looking forward to it. Serious shit, man.
It's not bad.
You know what I find interesting is, like, the songs that you like as an artist may not be necessarily what the fans gravitate to.
Yeah.
So it was very intriguing, kind of getting like the fans' perspective on like the ones that were their favorites, and then like you were like,
yeah, we were.
Like, it's always like that.
Yeah,
It's the one that you're not really crazy
like
about.
The ones that you're like the deepest shit you ever wrote. It's like but then like ones is like whatever. It's like
Yep.
I
wrote that in the kitchen making eggs.
For real. Like that shit took me like 10 minutes to write.
And I finished it taking the dump. You know what I mean? Like all that.
No idea. But yeah, like a lot of people really like this song called Representa on the album, which was a really cool song. It was about raza. Like, I threw some shout outs to like some guerrilla groups in the Americas. My man Arson, he always kills it with his ability to kind of like switch in English to Spanish very well.
Oh, that's tight.
That song did really well. Let That Beat Speak, which was an old school song,
nice.
had a lot of traction as well. We even got some people that really love Train of Thought, which was cool because Train of Thought was a little bit of like a conceptual song. So when you kind of do that, you could like kind of go over people's heads sometimes, or it may not just be a good concept in the beginning with. So you go it don't have to be all high and mighty of like, oh, it went over their heads. It may not have even been that good to begin with.
Yeah, Train of Thought resonates with like our fans that like aren't like that hip hop, if you will.
Oh shit.
You know what I mean? So like whenever people have a more eclectic music taste, especially if they're into like rock, like that's the song they fuck with.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
That Train of Thought.
Yeah, and that one was like a little bit of a risk throwing it on there because it is like you have to slow down to listen to that song. It's not one of the songs that I think you could just kind of have in the background because I think like from the instrumentation to what we're saying on it, you got to follow. Yeah. But we wanted to put it at like early in the album to like force you to listen, because if you're not going to listen to it at number 2, then you're not going to like get to the songs that we want you to listen on later on in the album.
There's a few people I knew that would just go like, oh, you bastard. You bastard. You bastard.
Listen to everything, people. Listen to it all, man.
Yeah. But that's why we wanted to make the album short. Like, we cut a lot of shit. We didn't do no skits. You know, we were thinking about doing skits, but then in the end, we're like, let's condense this and just keep the material pretty cohesive, you know? We threw a couple of songs on there that were just like for the love, I guess you could say. Like one of them is LA Confidential, which is the song really, it's more of a narrative about this fictional character. It really reminds me of Biggie with The Warning, just a whole like fictionalized type of account of a song type of shit that has nothing to do with anything on the album. Like that is one. And I think that's the only one, dog, like that is just kind of like random.
Yeah, well,
that doesn't really have like a theme within the the scheme.
I thought
but it does have a theme, I guess. It's like what I like fables type shit.
Yeah, what I liked about that song, and I think it did ultimately fit within it, was because in all the music that we've ever created, we always talk a lot about where we grew up. So I grew up in MacArthur Park. He's from Pasadena, and we always talk about like the intricacies. So even on that particular song, LA Confidential, it's about this character named Ivory, and he paints this whole story about how he was kind of like in the bad life, and then eventually like shit just doesn't go his way, and the cops shoot him down. And what I added in there was like a different perspective on the same character, and I was like, yo, it's not that he was just going down the wrong road; it's that he was actually going to clean shit up. Because of a woman that came into his life, but then he ended up meeting the same fate because unfortunately the circumstances he was involved in. And on there I was like, yo, I'm gonna make sure that I talk about how he drove by 6 in Bonnie Bray, because I grew up in MacArthur Park. So I thought even then like it was a little different in terms of it was the only ones that wasn't from like a first person point of view. It wasn't like us rapping directly from ourselves, but it's still like tied into it, I think, as far as like the the background that the album plays in, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and like that song "Let That Beat Speak" was the last song that my homegirl Mad Mary got to rap on. She's an amazing female MC. Yeah. She don't even rap no more because of the fucking bullshit LA scene and how like you have to have a certain image as if you're a woman, unfortunately. And she didn't have that. She wasn't like by any means the beauty queen or anything like that. But she had the most fiercest fucking lyrics, dog. Like some of the dopest shit I ever heard. Like you could hear it on that song. Like it's really dope. I would be comfortable to say that she took out me and Son on that one. Like really dope. Like she's
that's badass.
I don't know about that.
Like that's dope. Like she performed at a competition.
Sounds like hold on.
Hold up. I don't know. Talk
Let's
to yourself.
Let's hear it again.
He's like, hey, can you play that, Bahgo? But she performed at a competition in Katie Jake's, and
everyone put the headphones on. Everybody with the headphones on. That's a brilliant idea, by the way. I got to give you props on that.
Man,
that is.
Do you know what that did?
Fucking brilliant idea.
That focused everyone to sit down.
Exactly, because at a listening party, they could be like, "Hey, dog, remember what happened last week?"
Exactly. Let's go
like,
smoke.
Fucking listen to shit,
But
dog.
we had to have a break, though.
But you're forced.
Yeah, we had to have a break, though, an intermission, because
Okay,
I said, yo, if we don't have an intermission, we're going to lose these motherfuckers halfway.
Smart.
Only
Fucking
hardcore hip-hop
smart.
heads, and usually younger dudes could sit there like and listen to a motherfucking whole album back to front. You know what I mean? You really got to love your shit to be able to listen to
That's
shit
really,
like that.
I was impressed.
You know what I mean? Like to really break down the lyric. Like I used to do that when I was in my teens. Like used to just be like, oh shit, like almost busting. You know?
Like rewind it,
With the tape though, like
rewind the tape. Press stop first,
or like
and then rewind.
Or if the rewind don't work,
shit
you
out.
flip it and then you do the fast forward and then you flip it
because it's faster and shit.
But yeah, man, that's fucking a pretty crazy story with that chick, Mad Mary. She threw everything away, erased all her fucking social media, all her raps, all her albums, and she's no longer rapping. So it was good to get a chance to see like her last testament on this album. That flow is actually years old, 3-4 years old easily.
Wow. What was her name again?
Her name was Mad Mary. Yeah, she actually
That's a dope name
she actually
too,
rapped
right?
with
Mad
she
Mary?
actually rapped with one of Arson's homegirls named Miss She-Ill, who's a dope ass rapper too, man. And yeah, they all came from UCLA. It's crazy, bro.
That's cool. It's crazy.
Hey, before we start, who else is here now that joined us a little bit late?
Joel.
What's up, Joel?
DJ Mino's also here.
Yeah, just so everybody knows who the voices are.
Whose voice is that over there? I haven't heard it.
I'm the voice of Mickey Mouse.
That's fucking Indiolandia.
I thought he was gonna say I'm the voice of no reason.
No, that's Osama bin Landia.
What's the other one? Osama bin Laden,
Dude.
Oh, shit.
Oh man, it's funny.
All right,
Inside joke.
We're back. And we're back, people.
Oh, fuck.
Okay.
All right, we're back.
Guess who's back? Back again. All right, man. Let me. Oh, my bad.
Go ahead.
So, let me ask you. Your influence.
I'd say like on me and like my style, probably the most would be Guru. Guru from Gangstar. Like just his the monotone flow. I kind of have a monotone flow myself. I think his attention to structure and like the rhyme schemes, simple enough so that the average person can follow, but complex enough so that like a head will respect it. And then obviously like Primo is like my favorite all-time producer, just period. So I would say Guru is probably like the single biggest influence on me as an MC.
That's a
Nice.
good choice, man. Yeah.
You said a key word, structure.
Yeah.
What's up? What about you, Prophet?
He's thinking.
Like
No, he's all there.
for me, it's a little bit of like a multi-tier type of thing because like
Shout out to Taylor Swift.
like
She got bars. Hashtag bars.
for real like my first influence was Method Man. I love the Wu-Tang Clan, and like
Oh, yeah.
I felt that Meth had like this swagger and like this style that was like very ill. It was like all his own. He used to have even like this way that he would dance, like when he would rap, it was kind of like a sway, and he would kind of allow this music to really just like emanate from his body. You know, it's like every MC when they rap, they have their thing. That was
and
his
by the
thing.
way, I've never seen anybody dance while recording verses like Prophet does. Like he'll be laying down a hook and he'll be having sex with the air at the same time.
Like this, I don't know. It's
Practice
that.
salsa
Now I know where it
like,
came
what are you doing?
It's this feeling and vibe I get.
Hey,
you know,
you got
like-
the pelvic thrust?
Yeah.
and all that shit?
Let me break down the 6 degrees of separation. Okay, so Method Man played a character on The Wire called Cheese Wagstaff. And they called him Cheddar.
Wow, what the fuck?
So there goes the 6 degree of separation.
But
right
yo,
there.
like
Kevin Bacon right there.
Meth is the shit, yo. Like he has like that. He has that thing. Like you know how every MC has like their tick. Like when you see, for example, 2 Makes he does his hand thing. Yeah, everyone has their thing. You know what I mean? So that was his, and I really loved it. I love his style of rapping. That was really big influence for me. I used to live in the Midwest for a while. I was born in a small town called Ohio. I mean, Lorain, Ohio. It was really close to Cleveland. And I moved out here when I was a few months old, but then I moved back when I was like in middle school. And then I started to absorb a lot of like East Coast shit. You know what I'm saying? A lot. Went to Puerto Rico for a year, came back to Cali, and then all this West Coast shit came. So I started to love a lot of West Coast rap, like Snoop. I think Snoop was one of the most prolific freestyle artists like of his day. You know what I mean? Like not only did he have dope ass songs, but he freestyled his ass off. So I really love a lot of like early Snoop shit. You know what I mean? Like this is like his freestyle and flow. I think a combination of him and Math. You know, for me.
Yeah.
That's tight.
Because he had that singing. You know, he could sing and rap at the same time. It's very melodic.
Yeah, he's
That's
real
what I noticed
fast,
a lot.
man.
His shit was dancey though. His cadence.
Yeah.
He'd always have some type of pattern that he'd follow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd be catchy to the ear. Be like, oh,
Yeah.
that shit's tight. I
Like
love
on the
this.
shiznit, like on the shiznit, on doggy style.
Yeah.
Like he's just like going on and on and on. You're just like, ooh, man, you know?
You just want to follow it.
I love it. I love it.
Fucking voice of Long Beach. Man.
Hell yeah. Do you know who else was a really dope ass MC? And I had this theory about him. Corrupt. Okay, he comes like he comes from the East Coast. He's a Philly MC. He came to the West, became hardcore gangster. However, there was a moment in time where he was featured on a lot of East Coast albums. He was on the Pete Rock Soul Survivor. He was on fucking the real Slum Village, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Rough Riders.
Yeah, Rough Riders. I was like, damn, this guy's getting mad love. Even his first album, the Corruption album, was a double disc. The West Side and the West Coast and the East Coast side. Very intriguing, man. I always had a lot of respect for Corrupt. He fell off hella sick, but his first couple albums were like really technical, dope rap.
You know, if he gave a fuck about a bitch, he'd always be broke.
I know, for real. That fool. For real. That's why he's selling weed now. He has to give a lot of fucks.
No, but that fool had bars. He had bars, fool. He had.
all day.
You could tell he was more of a freestyle cat.
Yeah.
Cause I remember. Okay, I'm not. Fuck it. I went to high school with him, and I remember him back then. Remember, Mino could testify to this. We seen him at Losinger.
Damn, that's
And he used to
dope.
spit back then, dude.
Sick.
That's dope.
And
That
we,
deserves a
Everybody
picture.
respected him. Like
That's
we used to
dope.
trip out on him like, yo, this motherfucker was badass. Him and I remember
Him and
Les.
Les.
Him and the homeboy
him
Les.
and Les
man.
one, yo.
They used to go at it, man, and we like, who
They
is
were
this?
the two cats, right? That were
Yeah.
like dope.
Yeah, they'd be up on stage
our
because we had
time.
we had a stage of sometimes they'd be like on lunch. They used to have
The
little
slab.
sessions,
The slab.
and this we used to be up there just busting, dude. And be like, whoa, this motherfucker was badass.
Yeah.
And then to see him later on when he came out, we're like, oh my god, that's the motherfucker, bro.
Yeah.
Like that's that
And
dude.
everybody in the hood would always be like, "Hey, you went to Losing? Remember that? Remember that?"
Think about the style of rap that he was bringing to the table on the West Coast. Considering like the contemporaries around him were spitting a completely different type of style. Like
Yeah.
he was really spitting some lyrics and shit,
he was.
and he almost had to adapt to the gangster style to fit into where he was at. But his East Coast roots were just shining through, man. Like on Dog Food,
Oh, man.
he has like there's a couple songs like Reality is one of my favorites. That song he just goes crazy,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Non-stop.
Psycho Like No, you know, Psycho Like No,
Yes,
bitch ass.
non-stop.
Ooh, man. Joints, bro.
keeps going.
I don't like
He
to
keep
dream
going.
about getting paid. I mean, just joints.
He was lyrical.
And Daz's
Yeah.
production underneath that was like Daz's
Oh,
best, his
my
best.
God.
Daz is an unsung hero. Like,
Yeah.
His production, I think, is so dope, man. That he didn't really get a lot of shine, you know. He didn't
But
get a lot of shine.
He got
at
a
all.
chance to do it, but not as well, he could have.
Yeah. Well, I actually saw an article that he's getting $300,000 a year in royalties
Yeah.
just off 4 songs that he made on fucking All Eyes on Me. You know what I mean? So he's good for the rest of his life. You know what I'm saying?
He said.
Hey, outside of hip hop though, do you guys have any influences? Any Spanish? Any
Oh, yeah.
fucking Slayer?
Any
Not
salsa?
Slayer, but yeah, I love fucking. Now that I'm getting a little bit older, I'm starting to embrace the music of my parents, which I kind of hate.
Not Baby Shark, right?
Nah, my mom.
No, that's
like,
his kids' music.
It's Mommy Shark.
yeah, that's like that's my students at work
There you go.
music and shit. I had to bump that, but not by choice. My mom, she's Puerto Rican and she bumped a bunch of salsa growing up, and I used to hate that shit. One thing she did bump was a lot of like Motown though, and a lot of like soul, and that I did love, and R&B and shit like that. I do love that and a lot. The salsa I recently started to love within the past 5-6 years, and I love it a lot. I started to really dig deep and understand that salsa, especially what happened in New York, was like their hip hop of their time. Like
The Willie
It was
Colon
their
shit.
voice.
Willie Colon shit. If you look at the
Yeah.
album
Yeah.
covers, they're gangster as fuck. You know, they're talking
Yeah.
about the shit that's happening in the streets from their perspective.
Yeah.
You see like the Ruben Blades shit that he was making with
Ruben
like Siembra.
Blades.
He was
Yeah.
making a lot of political type of music.
Fania-
Hell yeah,
Fania.
Fania Records is the shit. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much more than just
Hector
you know.
Lavoe.
Yeah, Hector Lavoe, La Voz. I mean, come on, you know what I'm saying?
No
Like
shit, dude.
Willie Colon was one of the dopest fucking like orchestrators of the time. I'm starting
I'm
to really love that shit now. You know what I'm saying?
tight.
But as a kid, I hated that shit. So now, like I'm absorbing like all kinds of world music. Like I love shit from Brazil, like bossa nova shit. I love
Yeah.
like Su Jorge.
How do you incorporate that into your music?
I think
Your lyrics.
I don't even know if I really do. Maybe subconsciously, maybe just through some of like the patterns that I take and things like that.
The way he
Or-
danced on the mic.
like that kind of stuff. I really want a lot of those musics to be sampled, so that
Yeah.
in the music that I'm trying to make, so that influence could kind of be imparted.
Gotcha,
You see
yeah.
that in the song "Representa" on the album. It has a lot of like mariachi style horns, which kind of like dictated the flow of what the song was going to be about. You know, and I'm sure Arson could testament to the music he.
Yeah,
enjoys.
no, I mean, like in high school, like if I wasn't listening to hip hop, like it was a lot of like 80s flashbacks back then.
Hell yeah, dude.
Nice.
So I spent a lot of time like listening to like Depeche Mode,
sweet.
you know, Morrissey, The Smiths, The Cure, and like I think the way that that particular influence makes itself, like at least in my rhymes, is going back to the vulnerability.
Yeah.
Right, because like a lot of the influence within hip hop, like if we look at it back then, like you know, in the last 5 years, it's become one of the cool parts about the new school is that I think you can be more comfortable being yourself, even if we're having trouble figuring out what that is. But I think before that, right, like you know, there was a lot of masculinity, machoism, like not being able to express yourself like as emotionally weak or anything like that. And I think like, you know, some of the hip hop artists in the last few years have really been responsible for bringing that back. But like when I think about those artists and I think about like Dave Gahan or Morrissey or any of them, really like that's really what they were able to do. They were very comfortable with it. And like Morrissey, like I think I've read that like his biggest fan base is Mexican from LA, I believe, and I think it's because
That's a Clika post, by the way.
Los Angeles, fucking Los Angeles.
But I think like
he wrote that song Mexico for his Mexican fans and off his what was that? You Are the Query? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's You Are the Query.
And I think like, when I think about like why he would resonate in our city, it's because I think like a lot of the heroes, the people we look up to, they they didn't allow you to do that, and we do that through like a lot of the local music. Like I'm personally Chilean. My wife is Mexican, so whenever I'm with her family and they're playing like banda or anything like that maybe I'm not as familiar with, like, and I listen to it, there's a lot of vulnerability in it too, right? So I think like that in general, kind of like whenever people allow themselves to be okay, like I feel like that influences me in some way.
Like I've never seen so many Mexicans cry when they hear Vicente.
Yeah, exactly.
Serious shit.
It's the truth though.
Yeah.
Word up.
Yeah.
Especially that one song. There's like a funeral song, right? There's a specific funeral song that everyone sings.
Yeah.
And once you hear it, they were singing it for Kobe too.
It's fucking powerful, dude. And then we also have a Vicente singer in here. Two of them.
Yo, but I have to say something to that. I'm a strong believer that the best music is the one that is like so emotionally attached to the person that's delivering it, and the best artists were the ones where they were able to remove that filter.
Yeah,
because when you're writing or making music, you filter yourself so much. You're like, they ain't ready for that. Maybe I'm not ready for them to see that, and you filter it. Yeah. And the best ones have been able to take out that filter and just be honest and open on the mic. And not only that, because writing is one step, then the other step is conveying that emotion when you're recording, and that's difficult. Not everyone has that skill.
No, exactly. Like we go back to Vicente or even Morrissey, it's not even the words he's saying, it's the fucking emotion behind it. So if you could translude that into hip hop, you got something.
Exactly, it's all music.
You're gonna make
that's why music is so powerful.
All those Chente songs, most of them were Jose Alfredo Jimenez.
Originally
written by him.
Exactly.
And when he sang them a certain way, but then Chente came out and flipped it, and they were like, "Oh my god!"
Oh, especially you fucking hitting tequila.
Rey, fucking Caballo Blanco,
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them that were all.
And for fucking Chris to listen to that shit, dude.
That's just dope, dude.
Or was it just the cars driving by your house, dude?
Hey, don't forget fucking what's that fucking banda? The one that wrote that song for Chris, El Indio Quiere Llorar.
El Indio Quiere Llorar. I don't know who sings it, but yeah, I know you're talking about. Yeah, hey, I was a big fucking Tigres del Norte fan, dude. And Ramon Ayala, those are my people.
Oh yeah,
they're OGs. Those guys are
fucking want to get drunk when I hear that type of fucking.
True vets, man.
Oh yeah, dude. Fucking Ramon just hit it, dude.
Ramon Ayala, dude.
Accordion king.
You want to fucking drink or cry, one of the two. Call your girl.
You could be on any drug or alcohol, and you're fucking good with them. Dude.
Oh yeah.
Speed. Hell yeah, dude.
It's a whole different genre, bro.
That's a whole different podcast.
Yeah.
Who does speed here, Dick? Crickets, I hope.
The meth cast.
What I'm curious to see is like on those songs and shit, like just from like a nerdy technical perspective, like I want to know how many takes they took, because for me the best takes are 1, 2, 3 takes max.
Yeah.
After the third or fourth, you're losing all your fucking emotion and energy. And those songs are so powerful. I wonder if like they just knocked it out in one take, like on some Jay-Z shit, or if it's like, or if like they spent weeks on that shit.
They had to wait for the perfect moment to get dumped and your fucking horse dies and all that shit.
Exactly. Like his horse is all sick and shit. He's like, fuck, I'm ready now.
I'm talking about Morrissey, Nick.
I thought it was talking about Ramon Ayala.
I thought he was talking about Chente.
I know, like ese caballo está muriendo, and it's like, all right, man, yeah.
Horse and horse.
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 I think Tupac probably was like the Morrissey of rap.
Perhaps.
You know,
No, don't.
Oh shit. Okay, well, sorry.
He was a Smiths.
Yeah, sorry, man. This guy's he's a Morrissey fan. I gotta be careful. But
What's your comparison?
Look at Joel just looks at him when he's like, "You ain't no fucking Morrissey fan." I've been in Morrissey longer than his ass.
What's a better comparison, Joe?
What?
What's a better comparison to Morrissey, Dick?
The Tupac.
in the rap.
In the rap.
Mm-hmm.
Like who could compare to Tupac as far as other genres of music?
Aqua, Dick.
Fuck.
Come on, Barbie, let's go party. That's spitting some real shit right
Fuck
there.
yeah,
Dude.
dude.
I mean, it depends upon what the criteria that you're judging this off of. Are you talking about cultural impact? Are you talking about just the body of work itself?
There you go, College George. There you go, College George.
You're so silly.
He lost me a cordial dig. I'm like, what?
He's about to spit some pieces.
I need to look it up on dictionary.com, dig. Is that a dog?
Say it again. I'm gonna record it. Say it again.
I got a cordial. He's a little four-legged dog.
That's a really good question. I'm kind of having a hard time to figuring out like
Kool Moe Dee, dig.
who would be a
Hey,
good
God
comparison.
made me funky. That's a dope song. God.
Well, yeah, because I looked at the vulnerability behind it because Tupac, man, that fool laid his whole soul on every song, man. I mean, Me Against the World was one of my favorite fucking albums, man.
But don't you think he went the other way after that?
It was duality.
It was a big duality.
It was duality in one album. You had like a Dear Mama, and you had like a Hit 'Em Up, and you had like a I've Been Around.
Turned into like the crazy Tupac. After that, it was like.
Are we talking Death Row or are we talking pre-Death Row?
Pre-Death Row. Me, I was pre-Death Row.
That shit was dope as fuck.
Doing some.
I'm talking Poetic Society.
Yeah, but even during Death Row, he had some dope shit on that fucking All Eyes on Me. That shit was banging as fuck. And the Machiavelli shit that came out after that shit was hard as fuck too.
That came out of nowhere.
And then, question: did you guys ever get into the mixtapes? Like all the fucking Machiavelli mixtapes that he dropped?
Nah.
Like 6 or 7, 8 mixtapes. They used to be at your local music store, the bootleg ones.
Bodega.
Yeah, they just had the cassettes and shit. But yeah,
The
man.
Rimo Latinos and shit.
El Curazao.
Fucking swap meets and shit.
Like
Christopher
Gigante.
Warehouse.
Christopher Motion.
JJ Newberry.
See, you Valley guys don't know anything about that.
You find him at Woolworths.
I'm living in the valley just barely now, man.
No, there was swap meets.
Dropping now at every Dividends.
There's swap meets in the valley.
Fuck it.
Dropping at every Safeway.
Buy some pogs and shit.
Pogs.
Right next to Fallas Paredes.
right next to Tianguis, dude.
Hey, I love the way he's looking at it. Like, what are you guys talking about, man?
He's making note. I'm going to all these places.
That was a physical Amazon.
Right next to Northgate.
That was a Mexican Amazon.
Right next to Northgate.
Amazon.
That was Western Auto, dick. You can get a tune-up, you can get a gun, you can buy fucking silverware and a fucking stove, dick.
And a girl.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's the only place you can get WD-40 and a bulletproof vest, dude.
I remember Western Auto on Florence by the railroad tracks by
They had
Roosevelt Park.
everything, dude. They had fucking everything, man. Anyways, back to the music.
It's like I need a bazooka and dog food. Where can I go? Go to Western Auto.
And the latest Selena album, dick.
Yeah, I have a question for you guys. Like I am like not into any of the hip hop
Oh, here we go
of
again.
the 2000s. Just does not do absolutely nothing for me.
Doesn't resonate.
Nothing whatsoever.
You like that Post Malone album, don't you?
Oh, fuck no. But I'll tell you what. I kind of opened up to Anderson .Paak. What do you guys think about him?
And I like Anderson .Paak. I didn't like the Oxnard album that much, but I really liked the what is it, Malibu, Venice, and then I thought Ventura was really good too. I like him. I think he's super creative. Like I think he kind of has his own sound. Like I remember I learned about him when Dr. Dre dropped that album like 3 years ago. I think it was. You remember that the one that was. I think the soundtrack to a movie. Yeah, and he was on that, and I thought he stole the show on a couple of the songs. So I was like looking forward to learning more. And then I know he has that other. I forgot what the name of the group is. He has like a duo project also, but I really like him. I think he's super dope, super honest. I actually used to work in Oxnard, and he's from Oxnard, and like the community like is behind him too. So it's kind of cool to see it like kind of happen organically to an extent. So I like him.
I saw him at the Forum. I wasn't I really didn't care for it, but I watched the show, and like you said, very creative. I mean, he's got just a completely different
Oh, it's
style.
called No Worries. He has it's a duo album, and he's half of it. It's called No Worries. It's really dope. I think, and I saw him perform at MacArthur Park in the pavilion, and he did a nice job. Like his music, like the way he performs is exactly what it sounds like recorded. Like there's not a lot of engineering and mixing going behind it. It just is what it is.
You know what? Badass drummer too. Like I like.
He's
sick. I like that he drums and raps. Like
And
that must be
sings
so
too,
fucking hard. Like to keep the fucking metronome and raps.
I think it would be easier easier because you're counting the beats in your head.
But you have to rap that at the
it's
same
because the
time.
cadence is different. You know what I'm talking about.
A lot of things are going on in
Not
your head
everything
at the
is
same time.
like linear. Sometimes you're on some other shit. You know what I mean?
Or like behind the beat or in front of it. Or like even the beat's doing something different. The syncopation is a little bit different.
Right.
He's fucking brilliant.
There's pauses. There's
have you seen his fucking
I saw him in the NPR.
Tiny Desk.
Yeah.
Tiny Desk.
It's the Free Nationals, I think is the name of his band, right?
Yeah.
That shit was ill, bro.
Yeah. But you know what? I'm gonna throw out a convince me dick challenge for you. You should listen. You should get turned on to Mac Miller, dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Mac Miller is
he's
dope
dope.
because he writes all his fucking music.
I agree.
Yeah.
He plays behind he played behind a live band.
Yes.
Quite sometimes. His bass player was Thundercat, who's fucking dope as shit.
Yeah, he just dropped a new song today. It was called Dragon Ball Durag.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it just came out today. Yeah,
I gotta check that out.
Dragon Ball Durag.
Yeah.
Hey, Thundercat's a sick motherfucker, dude.
He's an interesting
fucking
dude.
bad,
man.
dude.
His bass playing is very unique, man. Very
Yeah,
unique.
he's fucking dope. He did he was on that song Dang.
Damn.
And then What's the Use? He played bass on both those songs.
He's embedded in the Los Angeles underground for a while now, man. He gets a lot of respect, you know.
Yeah, he's fucking sick, dude.
You guys ever heard of Terrence Martin?
Terrence Martin? No.
He's a dope ass instrumentalist and producer as well. He was did some production on To Pimp a Butterfly album, but he dropped the album about a year ago called The Sounds of Crenshaw Polyseeds Volume 1. It's an extremely amazing album. It's like all live instrumentation. It's combinations of like hip hop and like funk and like, you know, just music.
And it's just all instrumental?
Yeah. I know it has some songs on there, but it's all just all live instrumentation.
That's
it's fucking dope.
Wow.
He's like a dope ass jazz. I think he plays sax, if I'm not mistaken.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Check it out.
Gotta peep it out.
Yeah.
Now going back to you guys' music, when you guys write music, you guys writing it for yourselves, or you have a conscious thought of what your listeners gonna fucking listen to?
I'm just writing for me, man. For me personally, just writing things that I like, the stories that are relevant to me, and the expressions relevant to me. You know?
I think over time, like the more that I've embraced just trying to sound like myself, the better that the audience has reacted anyway. And I think like the first 5 to 6 years that I was rapping, like back in the mid 2000s, I think like, you know, you're trying to conform a little bit, like, all right, music's changing a little bit. Let me try to hop on that. Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't resonate because I think like the listener can tell you're not being honest.
You're not being true to yourself.
Yeah, you're not being genuine. So I think like that was what was one of the cool things about Brown Brovaz for sure, is that like we had no preconceived notions of what we wanted to do or what we wanted to portray. It was actually just about being ourselves at its essence. That's what the album is about. And that's why I think like people who've listened to it like see the repeat value and like have embraced it probably more so than they would have, 10, 15 years ago when we were probably like trying to sound like something we're not.
I think people will get more invested in music like that.
Right.
Yeah. When you're being yourself versus what's fucking hip.
Because it's genuine.
If you feel
There's some realness and you can feel it.
If you're creating for you and you feel it, you're gonna get an audience. Even if it's like fucking 2 fucking people.
Yeah.
It's going to be there because you're putting your shit out there and people are going to vibe that.
Someone's going to feel it.
You're putting your whole life, your whole soul in that. I think the one thing that I could say has been different for me writing now as an adult is I don't really talk about weed smoke a lot. I used to always talk about weed and shit. Like, I'm smoking so much herb, I'm high, I'm all this kind of shit, all this embellishments, and that shit is stupid kind of talk.
Give us
to
a
me
free
now.
flow.
Yeah.
Give us a taste.
I'll participate a bit, but yeah, like, but I'm like, cool the beats. But yeah, like, that, like, I don't want to talk about that. I used to always say, like, the N-word a lot, and that kind of shit doesn't really, like, appeal to me too much, because that's not the really kind of way that I speak
You're on your
anymore.
grown man
That turns
shit,
me off real quick. When I hear people fucking, it's all the same usual shit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a shortcut to thinking is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you can't,
It's a crutch.
If you can't think of like some proper words or like the phrasing and things like that to make something, like, stop writing. You know? Put the pen down for that moment and come back to it later.
Yeah.
That's cool to do.
That's why I love fucking Bagolandia, dig.
Yeah, Bagolandia don't play, man. Hey, real talk. Bagolandia is one of the most well schooled students of music that I've met, like, in my travels. Like, he really loves this music shit, not just hip hop. He really loves music. He loves, like, the essence of it. I was telling Arson on the way here, like, Bagolandia is like a collector. He has like collections of things that pertain to music from decades ago, and like he holds them like badges. You know what I'm saying?
I thought he was a poser for the past 15 years.
He really fucking loves this shit. You know what I'm saying? And that's why when this fool said he was gonna put that shit away, I'm like, hell no. I know. When this fool said, I'm like, I'm gonna stop making beats, bro. I'm gonna start painting. I'm like, get the fuck out
man.
I looked at him like, "Are you sure? Are you sure you want to do this?"
I'll hold your NPC if you want.
It was a personal decision, but
you sold your
fucked.
ASR 10, didn't you?
No.
See, you got his music, and then you've had a flow right away, right? How did that go through, man? You heard his shit, and then what?
For Bagolandia?
For Bahgo's music, yeah, Bagolandia.
Bagolandia.
When I first met him, we were part of another crew. It was called State of the Union, and Mino was part of it for a while as well.
A short stint, but it was fun.
Very short stint, but it was fun. We Bahgo would flip us tons of beats. He was the exclusive producer. At one point, we were going to have another producer named Anti, who was really dope, but it just didn't work out with scheduling. So Bahgo was the #1 producer, which was great because I got along extremely well with Bahgo. And I think that's important to have like a good relationship with people.
Yeah.
Because if you're friends with someone, then like, I don't know, it just works so much better, you know? And Bahgo,
the chemistry's there.
Yeah. So like Bahgo would send beats and like right away like thoughts would kind of come to my head, and then I would start to like write stuff down, kind of like stream of consciousness kind of stuff. It's almost as if I'm freestyling on the paper, right?
Yeah.
And I began to realize that like years later that sometimes that's good because it's coming right from the heart, right from the soul. Like I said earlier in the cast, like that's the kind of like style that I like to do, and Arson is a little bit more technical and well thought. So that's kind of where me and him kind of play off each other very well. So sometimes I would get these great ideas, and sometimes they'd be hella whack. But working in a group, you're able to like bounce each other's ideas off each other. So for one song, for example, Train of Thought, which was the first one that we worked on that actually made the album with me and Arson, just working together, not with anybody else. That song, right away, I think that right away, like I hit up Arson and I'm like, Train of Thought, like that's what hit me right away, just those 3 words. And then from there, I was like, I'm kind of thinking of this as like, you're always getting all these thoughts coming to your head, and then sometimes like you'll miss a thought, and that's like it essentially leaving the station. But don't even trip, because another one's gonna be coming right.
You gotta transfer.
Yeah. So like that's kind of my idea behind it. And then we had this whole like train theme and shit like that. But for me, it's just like a feeling and just like a pull and a tug, like. It's hard to explain, you know, like I'm sure all you guys being artists, you understand, like you being a photographer, I'm sure there's moments where like you get that perfect fucking shot with like the lighting and everything, and it's saying more than what the picture's saying, like you're able to convey something. As
I have one where it's all
out.
I have one picture where it's all out of focus, but it makes the most sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the worst picture you
It's
can
from like
take.
an artistic standpoint. And then I'm sure like Mino being like a DJ, there's moments where you just hit like the perfect fucking scratch, or you
Whatever,
just hit you can maybe never duplicate it again.
Right.
At that moment, it was just right that moment.
And
You
that's
being a bass player, probably you jamming with the band, come up with one of the sickest jams, like, oh shit, and everyone is like in total unison. You don't know how that happened. It's because the music had already a destiny where you guys were just the conduits in which it was flowing through, you know?
Ernest Hemingway had I guess he was talking to a young writer, and he asked for advice, and he just looked at him and he said, write drunk, edit sober. And basically he didn't say like, well, Ernest Hemingway was a fucking alcoholic, but he said it in a way like, write down all your ideas that are coming at you right now, and then when it, like come back to it, and when it makes sense, like strike with that when the inspiration's hot, and then you go back to it, and then you just structure it. Then now that the feelings like died down, and that's what he meant by that. Write like drunk, edit sober.
I like that because like honestly,
I paint drunk.
Like that's fucking hella true, man. Like there's a lot of times where like you're creating music and things are happening that you can't even put into words. It's just like you can't even describe it. You know what I'm saying?
It's magic.
Yeah, it's like wow,
it's
like
magic.
We just made that vibe. That's why I'm a very vibe oriented person, which is why I tried to explain to my man Arson about the vibe that it's hard to explain. It's just more of a feeling type thing.
Well, and I think like for every time that something comes together that maybe you weren't you didn't think was going to happen, like this past weekend I was working on some music with my boy Rix, and it was like Saturday night, and we had ate some burgers for dinner, and then right after we were kind of like maybe we should just take the night off, sounds like a good one to just chill and do your thing. And we played a beat, and we were done written and everything in like 2.5-3 hours, right? And then I think about like every time where maybe it got together, a couple times in the sessions for Brown Brovaz, this happened where like, okay, it's just not coming together. Let's not force it. Let's not try to just force this thing through, because now it just sounds like robotic, and
you can hear it
exactly, and the listener can pick up on that. So, like, I mean, I think every song has its own timeline, one way or another. And what was cool about this project was really being able to align each other to that, because One other thing, like Prophet is very much, again, like he goes, like I said, he's a freestyler. I'm more of a writer. He wants to record and be done in a take, and then I want to go back and see where I can fine tune it a little bit, right?
He's a yin to your yang.
Yeah, but where it's a little different, right, is like, as he alluded to it earlier, sometimes I want to finish the song and I want to put it out. I want to get some reactions on it right away, and he's like, nah, hold it for the body of work. So as much as he like wants to kind of capture the moment, he also like might like I think we probably would have dropped Brown Brovaz like maybe a little later. Maybe it would have been a better project, to be honest with you. But that was the other tug is like, I like
quick to hold back, right?
Yeah, so he'll kind of stockpile this shit a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And he has like a lot of projects that he's worked on over the years that he has on his hard drive, and I've like listened to most of it now, and I'm like, yeah, let's put it out.
Stop hoarding it.
Yeah, he's a hoarder.
He is a hoarder,
you know.
He is a hoarder.
Because I think the situation sometimes where like, as an artist, like you try to have like, you be like an octopus, have a tentacle in every little pot, right? And like, and that allows for you to not be tied down to one creative sound, to one creative direction, or to one group of creatives. It's like you're moving around to a lot. So like, I have an EP that I was talking about with Bahgo, that I have a couple joints on. I got another LP with another homie, and then this one, and then that's why this album, I had to finally pull some of them shits out and say, fuck it, man, we're gonna drop on this album. And I told Arson, like, look through your crates. I know you have some shit. I'll look through mine. We don't all have to be on the track with each other. We could bring out some solo joints too, right? So there's a couple of joints on this album that are 4 or 5 years old. You know what I'm saying? So like, it was just time to bring them shits out, right? And I don't think the sound is dated at all. I think it's just a matter of anything could be fresh. It's old to you and your homies. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. The vibe was the same as the song. So
Well, good music is timeless, dude.
Yeah.
Good music is timeless. If it's dope, it's gonna last forever.
Yeah.
I mean, you could listen to the fucking Dr. Dre's Chronic, and it'll still sound dope.
Still bangs, yeah.
Now, do you guys see yourself as any kind of inspiration to the future generation out there?
I didn't until I started getting like some feedback from like what my cousin gave us that Arson said. Also, I was working at a high school a few years back, and I made a little program similar to what Arson did with the Y, and I had a freestyle little circles that I would bring with the high school kids, and they were very into this rapper named Self Provoked, and he's like a homie of mine. I brought him in to do like a little freestyle with the kids, and they fucking love that shit, and it was really cool to kind of like start talking to them about like, you know, what this music could do and what you could do with it, you know what I'm saying? And how to structure things and how to work on writing like actual songs and what does bars mean. And it was really fucking dope, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah.
I've, you know, like sometimes like when you play music in different settings, so like the barbershop test, you got to pass it, right? So I go to a barbershop out in Encino, and my barber was like, yo, what's up with the music? Let me, you know, can I hear some of it? And, you know, I put it on in the barbershop. And my barber, he's awesome. Shout out to C's. He does like an awesome job. He's like 18, 19 years old. So
Can you hook me up, dude?
He got you, bro. He got you.
A little off the top.
But he's, you know, he's very young, you know. And when he listened to it, kind of what I alluded to earlier, he talked a lot about how, man, he's like, damn, man, like that's really cool to hear that. Like, you know, there's a song where we talk a little bit about like some like financial struggles that we've been through, right? And he's like, man, no one like talks to me about that. Like I've never, you know, talked about that. And then that sprung a whole conversation where during the rest of the of the cut, like we were talking about like, yo, this is how you should set up your accounts, and this is like what you should do with your money, yada yada yada. So I think one way or another, the fact that again we were really open to sharing, like whether it's financial, mental health struggles, like emotional issues, like I hope that if people are inspired by it, then hopefully it's like that space where like I know when I was 18, 19 years old, no one was talking to me about those things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dude. What kind of message do you have for the younger crowds that are getting into your craft? What do you want to pass on to them? What knowledge or what advice would you like to give them?
I think you like right now is the time for you to give yourself to it like 100%, right? You know, as the years pass, whether it's life, whether it's employment, whether it's school, whether it's, you know, life happens, right? So one way or another, like the time is limited. I think that's probably something we all feel, right? As we get older, like, yo, like now I look at music as something that eventually I'm not going to be able to do. So now that you're younger and you can just give yourself to it, if that's truly what your love is for, like, yeah, absolutely give yourself to it. But I think I would also share that like your expectations should be what you want them to be. Like, you know, I think when you're younger and you're coming up in hip hop, you think like, yo, if I didn't drop an album and if I'm not on the cover of the Source magazine and someone's not giving me 5 mics and I'm not selling 100,000 or 1 million albums or whatever, like I didn't make it. And like sometimes people have been like, as we're releasing the music, I've had a few of my homies be like, yo, that's really cool, like you're chasing your dream. And I'm like, I'm not really chasing my dream at this age. I'm, you know, I have to like provide for myself and for my family. Like this is just something that I really love. And it's like a very, very serious hobby.
Doing it for the love.
Really, it is. But it's a hobby, but it's a very serious one. Like I would never want to do it short. So I think like to the kids, like they have to be okay with whatever the expectations are of themselves. If they want to be a super huge star, then go for it. If this is just something that brings you happiness and gives you an ability to stop and think and be creative, then just go for it at that, and just be like, just be yourself, I think is really more than anything else. But the younger you are, the more that you can kind of give yourself to it. So now's the time.
Yeah, dude.
And I think also be original. I think that's been lost in this day and age. Like it was something that was so highly coveted back in the day, which made hip hop so unique, was the fact that everyone was trying to be original. And I think now everyone's kind of following trends, and that's kind of like a disservice to like creativity, because if you're following a trend that's already been done, then where does that leave room for you to be yourself or be creative, right? And I think right now the youth have everything for them. Technology is so more advanced than when it was back in the day. They can make a home studio real cheap and release dope ass music that's crisp, just like $1 million studio would be, with a very minimal setup. You know what I mean? And I think and they're learning the technology so much quicker because they're born with this shit. Like when we were born, the internet wasn't around. You know what I'm saying? Not big.
How old are you guys?
Like it came out later.
How old are you guys?
I'm 34.
I'm 35.
All right.
So it came out later, like, or it was right around to come out, like it was just a different era. So like the technology we were learning it. They're already born learned it. You already, you know what I'm saying? It's like embedded. It's in their hard drive. So because of that, they're able to like get a setup at the crib, make the music, mix it, master it, put it out completely all by themselves with very minimal effort and very minimal cash. And and it's making stars of some dudes, you know what I'm saying? There's some YouTube dudes that are really hustling their ass off, making a living off of this shit, and they're like 18, 17 years old, 16, making like racks, hundreds of thousands of dollars, because they found their niche, they found their sound, they found their style. I can't knock the hustle. I ain't bumping it. But you can never knock the hustle of someone who's like being able to work the system and at a young age and figure out their niche.
You know what I would also tell them, like don't tie yourself up with debt. Right? Because like they're 15, 16 right now, and like maybe they're getting a hand with what they're doing. But like as soon as they have that option, and I speak from experience, right? Like, you turn 18 and all of a sudden now, I have access to cash that maybe,
credit cards.
Like work. Yeah, exactly. Like it's like work on your game. And
here's my first bank credit card.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll buy all this gear.
And then before you know it, like, now you have debt that you're carrying with you everywhere. And now you've started to restrict your ability to how much you can do with your dream.
Hashtag the UCLA School of Accounting.
For real.
Yeah, I'm 20 years of debt right now with the podcast.
For real.
Like,
hashtag Capital One.
But UCLA never taught me that, bro. That's just a school of hard knocks, man. Like, you go to UCLA, they don't teach you that. So how do you expect these kids to learn anything about it? But man, trust me, as soon as they get that option to like, pull out the Sam Ash credit card, man, like no interest for 6 months, and then before you know, you've done it on 10 credit cards.
Amen to that shit. I did.
Yeah,
I think I racked. Well, they gave me $2,500 at Guitar Center.
Yeah,
I maxed the fuck out of it
right away
in 1 hour.
I bought the MP, the ASR, fucking Mackie mixer, turntables, all that shit within a month.
One thing I would say that is also extremely important that I would say to the youth is don't get bogged down in this drug culture. It's all fake. These motherfuckers ain't doing these drugs that they're rapping about. You know what I'm saying? Like they really aren't. You know what I'm saying? Maybe a very small sliver are, but like the real big dudes, like Future and all them dudes, those dudes ain't doing that shit. They're rapping about it. The kids are getting caught up on these melodies and thinking that's what they need to be doing. They need to be drinking lean and popping all these pills. But motherfuckers are dying off that shit. Motherfuckers are dying off that shit, like left and right. You know what I mean? Like look at Mac. I mean, like, so many dudes. So Prince. I mean, that shit is not cool.
You see what the fucked up part about both those guys? They had money and they had access to good drugs, and they got bad shit. Dude.
Yeah, for real.
They got drugs like with fentanyl. Dude.
Wasn't
That's
Prince
how they fucking died?
Wasn't Prince taking just fentanyl no matter what?
No. He was taking. I don't know what he was taking. He was taking some fucking strong as fuck, but it wasn't fentanyl. But
it had it in there.
It was fentanyl, dude.
It wasn't fentanyl. He was taking
fentanyl, dude.
Well, wasn't he taking?
I heard he was taking fentanyl because he had
fucking killed him. That's all that mattered.
Wasn't he also taking Ativan and things like that?
Yeah, he was mixing all that
uppers and downers.
Yeah,
but they got
uppers and downers and all arounders.
They got bad drugs, and now you're a broke ass rapper. trying to score on the street, you're gonna get even fucking worse drugs. These guys are fucking millionaires, dude.
I agree.
Especially lean. You can't fucking cheap out on the Fanta, dude.
Nah.
You just can't. You can't fucking get that cheap fucking Shasta shit.
That lean shit is killer, man.
Yeah,
that shit is
man.
taking fools the fuck out, man. That shit is poison. When I see
you
fools
have a
drinking that
cough,
shit at parties, I'm
right?
like, that shit is whack. What are you drinking that shit for, man? That lean shit, it birthed the whole culture of fucking chopped and screwed, right?
Yep.
Like
Yeah,
there would be
that's
no
all it
DJ
was.
Screw. They're having a movie coming out about that.
Really?
About DJ Screw coming up soon. But
Dope.
yeah, man, that's a trip. These motherfucking kids think that shit's cool.
It's not.
You hear that, dude?
That shit is not cool.
Stay in school. That's
Say
not
no to
cool.
lean.
Say no to lean
Just
and
lean
pills.
back. Lean
Like,
back.
yeah.
Pay attention to Fat Joe and lean back.
All right. So, name 3 of your personal favorite people in your world, dude.
Oh man, I have to say my sister, and I have to say my mom, and
Bagolandia. That's the number one. That's the third one.
fucking Landia.
I just killed the fucking mood.
I mean,
dude.
I think,
all
like,
of them. God damn
I
it.
think I'd have to encompass it and just say all like my family, like my immediate family. I think it's really hard to say who your favorite people are when you have a family that's kind of close knit and when there's vocals, of them as it is. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't say me or you didn't say me. Nah, it's just like the fams. You know what
He
I'm
just
saying?
want
Like,
to get kicked his ass kicked when he gets home right now.
like the family is really the rock. You know what I mean? And I think when you get older and when you're younger, at least for my family, we used to hang out a lot of family parties. And now that I'm older, a lot of that shit doesn't happen no more. And I'm realizing how much I miss those.
You don't see each other as much.
Because of Facebook.
We're all
Yeah. What about you?
busy.
Name
I would,
4. Name 4 now.
4. All right. Well,
Name 9. Just name 9.
all right. Well,
And then pick 4 out of the 9.
First and foremost, my wife. Yeah, I have to say that, but I do genuinely mean it. And shout out to her because she supported the process of making this album. Like,
Hey.
she was cool with Prophet coming over every Friday night for like a year straight.
Like him again? Fuck.
Yeah. But she contributed. She's like mad that we cut a couple songs that she had actually like kind of recorded on and stuff. So she ended up like being personally invested. But definitely her, like, her support is just everything. I guess like I'm not gonna go to the family because then somebody's gonna call me out for it. Like, yo, I heard the podcast and you didn't call me out.
They're not
So
gonna hear it.
I'm gonna go more. No, they will, man. They will.
They'll give us that much
They're
props.
automatic. They're automatic.
My mom is front row at anything I do, man. Like,
That's cool, man.
What's up, Mom?
If I had a show with 3 people, and she's definitely one, and she's bringing 2 of her friends with her.
Nice.
She
Hell
supports
yeah.
everything, so she might actually listen to it. But no, I would actually say like I think about like random interactions that I have with people over time, and like what I do, I work for Target actually. So I work at all the stores that are like along the West Coast, and I go up to the store in Paso Robles sometimes, and they have a cart attendant. And this kid is like, he's some kind of special needs, right? He's not, 100%, but he's just a very genuine guy. And every time I see him, he remembers me by name. And like, I still don't know him by name, but every time he sees me, he gives me a big old hug, and he updates me on stuff that I assume he doesn't have a lot of people to talk to about. But he recently told me that his mom passed. And like, I felt so bad because as he was telling me in that moment, I could tell that he was literally just telling me because he wanted to tell me. But I also like had to kind of keep it moving, and he had to keep it moving too. So it was just such a weird thing.
Yeah.
But the reason I say he's one of my favorite people is because now I've interacted with him 5 or 6 times, and he's always just so genuine and so like full of life. And even this time where he was telling me about his mom passing away, he was trying to figure out like how he could make everyone else's day better.
Yeah.
So I like kind of like identifying somebody like that. I'm also gonna shout out my homie Dope Child. Prophet knows Dope Child. My boy Dope Child, like. He's from Chile, like I am. So when I was working for the YMCA, he was a local YMCA kid. And one day I heard him speaking with his heavy Spanish accent, and it's a Chilean accent. I was like, "Yo, are you from Chile?" Yeah. And then we became like really, really good friends. And actually on our Team Classic projects, which is another group that I've been a part of, he like does all the skits and everything. So he's always trying to like get involved. But the reason I say he's one of my favorite people, man, is like he's like the definition of loyalty. Like this guy has just been so loyal over like probably also about 15 years that I've gotten to know him. And like you just don't really see that enough, right? Like you might maybe like with people you like literally grew up with, but this was somebody who came into like my life like after I was an adult already, and the whole time he's kept it 100. And I just wanted to, I think as you asked who my favorite people are, man, like it's got to be somebody who's loyal.
That's
like
a
that.
diverse list. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
But that's not 9. You got about
Shit, all right.
He had 4. It's good enough.
Chris's
He
favorite.
didn't bring the big hard drive.
Chris's favorite people are Geronimo and Chief Sitting Bull.
You forgot coaches, dude. You forgot coaches.
MC named Mike Geronimo.
What?
Oh shit!
Digress.
Fuck.
Wow. Where do we go from there? Goddamn. Fucking Chris.
What do you fucking Chris? I'm not the one throwing racial slurs at me.
That ain't a racial slur, dig.
Oh,
What got you? All right, so you guys growing up and everything. I didn't go to college for obvious reasons. You hear me speak. But what made you guys go to college?
Shit, like I didn't have an option. Like it was my mom and dad were like, "You're going to college," but I think that's like a big myth, man. Like I went to UCLA and I'm proud of the degree, and like it helps a lot. Like for sure, if I put UCLA on a resume, like people want to hire you, but you know, it also left me with debt. It also I think took away from the experience of college, the academic portion of it, because like the social was great, the partying was great, getting to know people was great, but I took school less seriously.
Yeah.
But I think like my mom and my dad, I think that when they moved to the US, when they immigrated, like I was born in Chile, we immigrated when I was 3. Like their whole thought was like, I'm gonna come out here to, my parents are gonna get un título, they're gonna get a título. So all they wanted me was to get my título. So going to UCLA was like just a mandatory part, and
That's
you know,
dope, man. Cause my dad's dream for me was to work at a fucking warehouse, driving a forklift.
Get a forklift license.
He did, dude. I got it.
It's like, I'm proud of you, son.
Ricardo,
Necesito.
Ricardo,
Bodega.
Ricardo, mueve esa caja, Ricardo.
Hey, that's just cool though, man. Like me working in education, I realized that college is not for everyone, and I tell my kids that against like the advice of like the people in charge. I tell the kids like, hey man, college ain't for everyone, regardless of what they tell you. I'm like, some people are destined to go into trade. Some people are destined to start their own business. I'm like, do not think that this format is for everybody. You know, and for me, it actually wasn't for me. Like I went to college, but I got kicked the fuck out. I was actually acting a fool. You know what I mean? Not taking care of business. I ended up getting kicked out after like 2 or 3 years. I got disqualified, they call it. And then for like the past 10 years, I've been working my ass trying to get back in, taking a class here, taking a class there, and now within the past year and a half, I've attacked school harder than I've ever in my life, dog. Like I'm paying for it out of pocket.
But you don't really need that shit. I mean, it's not for you.
Like the thing is, I do need it because like I'm working at like I'm an elementary school teacher. Like I teach gardening and cooking to like elementary school kids.
So are you called Mr. Prophet? Is that what you're
Nah, they call me Mr.
He must be rich.
It's Mr. Prophet. These are seeds, and college is bullshit.
Nah, I work with the younger ones. It's non-credential teaching position, and recently they put this thing on me that it's like, yo, you got to get your degree. You got 5 years. So I was in the process of getting it anyway.
My niece did the same fucking
that
thing
shit
as you
lit
did.
the fire under me, and I'm just like, nah, I got to get this shit. And, you know, and I got about 2 years left. I'm hoping to get back into CSUN this fall, and I haven't been there since 06. So for me, that was like a huge deal, dog. I'm feeling really good. And your boy just got a 4.0 this last semester, so I feel like my first one in my whole fucking life. I never got that shit ever. So right now I'm kind of like,
I don't know the feeling. I got 2.5.
I thought I was getting a new car. I was like, hey, that's good. I got 4.0. It's almost a 5, dog.
I got the new Mustang at 5.
It's still good, dog. It's still good.
It's like the Mustang, the 5 point slow, dig.
But yeah, man, I haven't even finished school yet, so like I'm just in it.
Get
it? Like I think as far as like the way that I talk, that has nothing to do with school. I'm just an MC, so I like to read. Serio. Like I'm an MC, like I like to read. So like I came from like the hood, so I'm able to like do that code switching very well. Hey, you know what's up? You know, whatever, and then bam, how are you guys doing today?
Who's your favorite author?
Oscar Zeta Acosta. He's like a Chicano author. He wrote 2 books called The Revolt of the Cockroach People and The Autobiography of a Brown Buffalo. And it was all about the Chicano movement during the 60s and 70s. He was the best friend of Hunter S. Thompson, who's the dude that's on
Dr. Gonzo.
Yeah. And like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, that
Raul
movie.
Duke.
He actually plays the Benicio del Toro character is that author. You know what I'm saying? 2 amazing books. I recommend them highly. They're all about the Chicano movement. It's fucking dope, dude. They're really cool narratives.
Are you a fan of Miguel Pinheiro?
Miguel Pinheiro. I haven't really read any of his stuff. Dope.
He's a Puerto Rican. He started the New Yorican Cafe.
I know about the cafe.
He was one of the founders of the New Yorican Cafe. I figured that You're an MC. You're Puerto Rican. I figured you'd be a hip with him, but he's
I'll have
dope.
to get into him. Ever heard of Juno Diaz?
Yeah,
he's dope too. Yeah, he's like Dominican and shit. But
Yeah.
I like the way he writes. It's kind of like Spanglish.
Dude.
He throws in all this like different like slang words and shit.
I got Dr. Seuss on the fucking record right now, dude.
I gotta start somewhere, dog. You know?
but check out his shit.
Now I want to ask the college question because I did a career day not too long ago, and I was the contrast, the not college educated but doing okay,
Still successful.
Yeah, and then I just noticed that the kids related more to me versus everybody else because we had doctors, they had everything, and then you have my asshole ass, dude. You know.
Yeah,
Still making more money than the doctors.
Exactly.
I'm not in debt like they are, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not always the path for everyone.
Yeah.
Dog. You could be so successful as long as your grind is right. That's
And
the
this was
key.
a medical high school, dude, which I'm tripping out on. Like these kids are all
Marquez
poised
school.
Yeah, where we used to play fucking baseball and football. Well, at least I did. I don't know about your.
I was the
fucking
announcer. I couldn't play.
But it's a trip because not every kid. I mean, they're poised for college, but one day I noticed not every one of them wants to go to college.
No. But I think like if we like demonstrate the importance of like the bottom line instead of like how much money you're making.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of the times that kind of like ends up, it makes sense from that aspect, right?
That's the thing I trip out because none of the kids, all the questions, none of them ask me how much I made.
Right. Yeah. Like I think I have a homie named Jaime who he went to CSUN and it definitely wasn't for him. And then he moved back home and then he kind of like made his way up in the plumbing business. And I believe now he has his own plumbing company. And like the dude's been stacking for years now with no expenses. He had no college degree to pay back. Right. And like you probably think like if you went to school and you end up as a plumber, you're like, oh, does that make sense? But when you actually do the math, like, yeah, it could definitely make sense. Whereas you might be getting a 4-year degree and you might be leaving school with anywhere from like $50,000 to $200,000 of debt. If you get paid $100,000, like it's still going to take you a while to pay that back if you ever do.
You're never gonna
I got a
finish.
friend who just became a doctor and his fucking debt's fucking stacked,
ridiculous.
dude.
Yeah, he's gonna be hurting for years.
Yep, exactly.
I think the most important thing to teach the kids is that it's not about college, it's not about a trade, it's about sticking to something, working hard, and not giving up. Like that's what it's about, and that is the key to success in no matter what environment you're in.
Yep.
You could be in school, you could be doing your trade, you could be hustling on the fucking street. As long as you're dedicated, you don't fucking give up.
If you're gonna be a drug dealer, be the best fucking drug dealer out there.
Yeah, but I think that's
George Jung, you know.
that like that's the key to success, yo. That's and I think that's what a lot of kids really need to understand. You know, I wish I understood that shit earlier. Fuck, I would have been having my degree a long time ago.
Yeah,
Opened up a lot more doors. You know.
Shit. I was listening to a podcast, a Past Gas podcast, and they were talking about the Bell Casino, the bicycle club.
Yeah.
And that was built by a drug dealer.
In a way.
Yeah, that's how he fucking laundered his money through that fucking casino.
And the new update was built by.
Yo, that's how fucking hip hop was built by drug dealers, man. They fucking funded all the fucking artists and shit. Everyone.
Was it for Easy, dude?
Yeah, it would be no fucking Dr. Dre.
I'll tell you some stories out of the podcast.
Clap, clap.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yo,
And,
maybe just real quick, if we could just share, make sure you guys follow Brown
most
Brovaz.
definitely.
Oh, yeah.
We hear you working
On
the
Instagram.
fucking
Stream
worst
your
producer
music.
ever, I swear to God.
Young pluggery.
So where can we find your music at?
Brown Brovaz. That's Brovaz. You can find that shit on Instagram. You could find we just dropped the music video too. It's called Barzini. It's Barzini, like Don Barzini from the Bronx.
And you can find that's on YouTube and IGTV, and then you can listen to the album on any platform, so Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal,
Chris.
whatever you use.
Yeah, Chris, you can find it anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah, listen to it, damn it.
Google.
Anywhere and everywhere.
SoundCloud, if you're not paying that monthly fee.
And remember, it's Don Barzini, like the Godfather, the one that betrayed it.
That's where I got it from, dog. I was like, that's a badass fucking name, Barzini. Like, you're talking some bars, son.
He's the one that betrayed Michael Corleone.
He did, dog. He betrayed Michael Corleone, man. You know, he wanted to go into drugs and he didn't want to.
It was Barzini.
It was Barzini.
So that's where it came from.
Hear the fucking album, dog, now, bro.
I'm gonna hear it. I'm gonna hear it all the way home, dude.
You're not here.
Oh man, but yeah, dog. You can find us there. Also, our private Instagrams. Mine is the Prophet 16. That's 16.
And Arson the MC.
Yeah, and Bahgo, send me some beats.
Bagolandia.
You know?
Bagolandia, that's your new name,
That's
dude.
my new album.
Hey,
That's
take,
a new
take that
Instagram.
note, Dick.
Oh, that'd be a
Bagolandia.
sick ass album, bro. Bagolandia, and it's like you're entering the land. You know?
You have like a Ferris wheel, like fucking Neverland and shit.
That's
dude.
all I was thinking, Neverland,
Oh man.
Make it animated and shit. Have some full
dude.
draw.
Neverland for underage taggers,
Dude,
dude.
it's gonna be
You have a fucking DJ Pinocchio right there and shit, just hanging out in the statue.
I'm gonna drop a 3-song album. Fool, called
Hey man,
Bagolandia.
big shout out to you guys though at La Clika, man. Thank you guys for having us at La Clika
man.
Podcast.
Thank you guys.
It was
man.
our
Thank you,
pleasure, man.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Thanks for coming through, man. We really appreciate you guys taking the drive.
Yeah.
We got another long ass one on the way home, but shit.
I know, right?
Órale, sí.
La primera lives.
Yeah, órale. Hey, Hazard controla todo.
Cool, man. Then I'm signing out. My name is Bahgo74. We got
LLG.
DJ.
I'm sorry. clap. Start again, my nigga.
That's perfect.
That was good.
I'm sorry, my bro. I'm fucking so sorry. And the way you said it was con tan serio, wey. Tan serio, you know?
That's Art Laveau voice.
Hey, for real. All right. I'm ready now. Got
All right.
Oh my god.
All right, this is Bahgo74.
The self-conscious LLG.
DJ Mino.
Chris.
Joel.
It's the prophet.
Our son.
And we out.